Chapter 1451. As the night deepens, it's getting closer and closer to midnight. In the living room, Wei made a supper that isn't too hard to digest. He wanted to let Chuju and Mikoto replenish their energy. However, it was a pity that the two girls looked reluctant. Ugh, it looks delicious. Looking at the piping hot supper on the table, smelling the aroma that kept entering her nose, a trace of desire appeared on Mikoto's face, but she forced it down. She was at a loss. Yan's cooking is still so tempting. Should we eat it or not? I should be able to eat it right. Hinajika's face was also filled with uncertainty. There's going to be a battle later. I'm sure we can exercise properly. A supper won't affect us much, right? Seeing the two girls' strange behavior and words, Wu Yin was depressed. What's wrong with you two? Is there a need to treat a supper so seriously? That's why I say boys are good. Chuju muttered in dissatisfaction. Don't worry about yourself. You can eat whatever you want. Is there anything you can't eat? How come I don't know about it? Wu Yan's expression became even more depressed. I remember you weren't very picky. Do you really not understand, or are you purposely not understanding? Mikoto was stunned from the bottom of her heart for a moment before sighing faintly. Don't you know? It's easy to get fat eating supper. Wu Yan paused and was speechless. You don't want to eat it, right? Wu Yan put on a fake smile and put away the supper on the table. Then I'll just throw it all away. Throw it away? Chuju and Mikoto's body trembled as they mumbled. Wouldn't that be too wasteful? You two aren't eating anyway, right? Wu Yan turned around with an expressionless face while holding his supper. I can't eat that much. I'll just throw it away. Seeing Wu Yan was really going to throw it away, Chuju and Mikoto couldn't hold back anymore. Wait, it's not right to waste food. With that, the two girls pounced on Wu Yan. Wu Yan, on the other hand, seems like he's going to throw away his supper. He didn't want Chuju and Mikoto to take it away from him. And so, the three of them wrestled together in the living room. Suddenly, Wu Yan stopped in his tracks, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. Hinajiku and Mikoto also stopped what they were doing. What's wrong? Wu Yan didn't answer. Instead, his face darkened. He put all the supper in his hands on the table, opened to the balcony window. He walked out. Looking at the night view of Fuyuki City, Wu Yan slowly closed his eyes. Chuju and Mikoto, who were familiar with Wu Yan, knew. Wu Yan must have discovered something by doing this. Thus, they all retracted their expressions and came to the balcony as well. One on the left and one on the right of Wu Yan, they stared closely at his face. Not long after, Wu Yan opened his eyes. His complexion had taken on an ugly look. How? Something happened. That's the first thought that came to Chuju and Mikoto's mind. Yan. Chuju softened her voice and pulled Wu Yan's arm. What happened? Phew. Wu Yan let out a sigh of relief. His face returned to normal. Just now, one of the three remaining distorted mana sources in Fuyuki City suddenly disappeared. One disappeared? The two girls were slightly shocked. What's wrong? Mikoto furrowed her brows. Have any of the materialized heroic spirits been defeated by anyone? No. It's not midnight yet. The passage to the mirror realm hasn't stabilized yet. It's impossible for anyone to enter the mirror realm and defeat the spirits. Wu Yan looked in a certain direction. Also, the disappearance of the distorted mana source I sense shouldn't be described as disappeared. It should be it moved? Moved? The two girls froze on the spot. That's right. Wu Yan clenched his hand into a fist and knocked on the palm of his other hand. Just now, one of the three twisted mana sources in Fuyuki City suddenly moved, and then it mixed with another twisted mana source. I can clearly sense that one of the remaining two twisted mana sources has not only grown a lot, but also its aura has become more complicated. You mean to say? Hinajika was surprised. There are two spirits in one of the two remaining distorted mana sources in Fuyuki City. Wu Yan clicked his tongue. I'm afraid so. That's... Chuju and Mikoto looked at each other. Mikoto looked at Wu Yan. Doesn't that mean that the number of enemies we have to deal with tonight is very likely to increase by one? That's right. If that's the case, it shouldn't be a problem. With the three of us, even if there's another heroic spirit, we can handle it. Wu Yan had a worried look in his eyes. What I'm worried about is the distorted mana source with two spirits. Rin Inbin and the others might be heading there right now. This time, the expressions of the two girls change simultaneously. If that's the case, then Rin Inbin, Ruvia, Ilya, and Mio might encounter a very dangerous situation tonight. With the strength of that group, dealing with one heroic spirit was still manageable. But if they were to face two, the situation would definitely be very dangerous. Wu Yin, on the other hand, thought more deeply than the two girls. He didn't forget that the spirit Ilya and the others are about to face is Castor. Castor, magician, had turned the mirror realm into his own temple, using it to vigorously use the powerful magic of the mythological era. In addition, there was also the defense of the magic reflection plane, which defeated Ilya, Mayu, and others once. Although Ilya and Mio have the power to fight Castor because they can fly, Castor isn't that easy to deal with. How can a magician from the mythological era be so easy to defeat? In such a situation, if there's one more enemy, the consequences will be terrible. Of course, that's not the worst thing. Now, Lancer, Archer, Rider, and Assassin have all been defeated. Castor is the next enemy of Rin Enbin's group. The remaining two spirits are Saber and Berserker. Wu Yin knows that these two spirits are definitely the strongest among the 7 spirits. Moreover, they're overwhelmingly strong. Castor, with the offensive magic circle and the magic reflection plane, is already troublesome enough. If Saber or Berserker is added, even Wu Yan's group will be in trouble. Not to mention Ilya, Mio, Rin Enbin, and Ruvia, who haven't even reached the 8th rank yet. If something goes wrong, they will definitely be wiped out. Thinking of this, Wu Yan's face turned ugly. I was careless. Indeed, he was careless. This was because the situation of encountering 2 heroic spirits at once had also happened in the original work. But Wu Yin forgot. Today, after playing with Ilya and Mio for a whole day, Wu Yin has a good impression of these 2 cute little girls. How could he watch 2 adorable 10-year-old girls face such a dangerous situation? How could he do that? Just as Wu Yin was regretting his carelessness, he felt both of his hands were covered by a soft jade hand at the same time. Yin. Mikoto spoke with her usual confident and heroic expression. Let's go. Wu Yin was stunned. You want to save them, right? Chuju held Wu Yan's hand tightly. A gentle smile appeared on her face. We feel the same way too, Chuju. Mikoto, let's go. Yin. Chuju and Mikoto spoke in unison. As long as it's your wish. No matter where, the 2 girls' firm voice entered Wu Yan's ears. All of us will follow. Uncontrollable ripples appeared in his wine-red eyes. Looking straight at Hinajiku and Mikoto's smiling faces, he laughed, and his laughter was exceptionally bright. Good, let's go. Chapter 1452. Fuyuki City, the riverbank. The bright red bridge was hanging on the riverbank, not far away. A little bit of faint light spread on it, and moved slowly as time went by. It was the light in front of the vehicle when it was moving. On the riverbank, the street lamps provided a limited and dim light source, shrouding the riverbank that was paved with red bricks. Faintly, under the light on the riverbank, 2 big and 2 small figures gathered together and stood facing each other. Rin in Osaka first glanced at his watch to confirm that there was still time. Then he looked at Iria and Mayu, who were standing side by side in front of him. Seeing that Iria and Mayu didn't have the slightest expression on their faces, Rin in Osaka nodded with satisfaction. It seems that there's no problem. Both of you can fly skillfully, right? Yeah. Iria nodded her little head hard. Her action was indescribably cute. Mayu also touched a precise geometric pattern that was only the size of a thumb on her arm, and a determined look appeared in her eyes. That's good. Rin in Osaka put his hands on his waist as if he was cheering before the battle. As long as you can fly above the magic circle and the magic reflection plane, the caster magician will have nowhere to hide. The caster magician itself is relatively weak, so if the 2 of you work together, you can definitely defeat it. But remember, the battle is also changing all the time. Rin Inosaka's face was full of seriousness. The opponent is a caster, magician, heroic spirit. It may use some amazing magic and has its own noble phantasm. You need to pay attention to all these. Once you find that the situation is not right, retreat immediately. We have plenty of time, and we can continue to do it again. Understand? Rin Inosaka's solemn warning made Iria's heart palpitate, and Meiyo's eyes also became serious. The two little girls didn't say anything. They just nodded silently, indicating that they agreed. Okay. Rin Inosaka clenched his fist heavily. That man already has 3 cards in his hand, and he will be collecting them tonight. That's 4 cards, but we only have 1 card on our side, the caster magician card. We have to get it, do you understand? Beside him, Livia's face collapsed, and she almost fell to the ground. Elia and Mio's foreheads were also covered in cold sweat. Who was the one who said that they had plenty of time to retreat if the situation was not right? The 3 girls didn't have the energy to refute Rin Inbin's words, but someone replied to him. If that's the case, why don't you add us to tonight's feast? This voice did not come from Livia, Ilya, or Meiyu. Instead, it came from a place not far away. This voice, the 4 girls were stunned. He quickly turned his head to look at the source of the voice. The figures of 1 man and 2 women entered his field of vision. Among them, the 2 girls were wearing almost identical white dresses and short pants. They looked like sisters' outfits. The man was wearing a black shirt and black pants, and a black and white coat. At this moment, he was looking at them with a faint smile, and his wine-red eyes were filled with a deep smile. Needless to say, of course, it was Wu Yin, Chuju, and Mikoto. Big brother? Wu Yin, I-san? Ilya and Mio exclaimed in surprise, causing Rin Inbin and Livia to snap out of their daze. Rin Inosaka frowned. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? Wu Yin blinked and smirked. I'm here to save you. Save us? Rin Inbin was surprised. He didn't expect Wu Yin to give such an answer. What do you mean? Livia frowned and stared at Wu Yin. Are you trying to mock us? Indeed. No matter how you look at it, it sounds like you're mocking Rin Inbin and the others for not being able to defeat Caster, Magician. It's like you're trying to say that with their abilities, it's impossible for them to defeat Caster, Magician. As for the so-called save, it's like a turtle dove trying to take over the magpie's nest. Not long ago, you were still calling me Mr. Gentleman. Now, my impression in your heart has fallen to this extent. Wu Yin laughed, as if he saw through Rin Inbin and Livia's thoughts. I'm really here to save you. After saying that, Wu Yan's smile disappeared. Didn't you notice that there's 1 less source of mana distortion in Fuyuki City? Rin Inbin, Livia, Elia, and Meiyu were all stunned. 1 less source of mana distortion? Ruby and Sapphire, who were held in Elia and Meiyu's hands, were also shocked. Their bodies slightly twisted, and a strange fluctuation began to take effect on their bodies. It didn't take long for the fluctuation to disappear. Ruby and Sapphire also exclaimed in surprise. It's true. It's really 1 less source. How can this be? Rin Inbin and the others finally believed Wu Yan's words and looked at the 2 wands. Isn't the mirror world something that can only be entered after midnight? Livia hurriedly asked. Why did 1 of the sources suddenly disappear? We don't know. Ruby shook her head. However, we can sense that in addition to the lack of a source of distortion mana, the source of distortion mana here has become much stronger. Grown? Yes, Sapphire said in a deep voice. So, we have a guess. Is it possible that the heroic spirit that disappeared in the distorted mana source moved to the caster, Magician? What did you say? Livia was shocked. The other heroic spirit is also with caster, Magician. Rin Inbin, Elia, and Meiyu felt a chill in their hearts. Originally, a caster, Magician, was already very difficult to deal with. But if there was another heroic spirit, the girls didn't dare to think about it anymore. Rin Inbin and the others finally understood why Wu Yin said they're here to save them. If Wu Yin and the others didn't appear, they would have been completely fooled. The group of people who were foolishly kept in the dark would definitely break into the mirror realm and face 2 heroic spirits at once. Or perhaps, after defeating one with great difficulty, they would have to face another opponent who was in perfect condition. That's not a joke. Is that why you're here to warn us? Elia looked at Wu Yin gratefully. Thank you, big brother. It's too early to be happy. Wu Yin shook his head. There are 2 heroic spirits in the mirror realm you're about to enter. It's a fact. As long as your target is a rank card, you'll face 2 heroic spirits sooner or later. That's not it, right? Makoto chimed in. Since the 2 heroic spirits have already gathered together, then the remaining heroic spirit may also gather together. When that time comes, the heroic spirit may also gather together. When that time comes, you'll have to face 3 heroic spirits. This, Rin, Inbin, and the others were silent. Is there any other way? The silent Makoto raised her head and looked at Wu Yin. Wu Yin, you didn't come here just to warn us, right? Haha. As expected of Makoto, you're really smart. Wu Yin praised with a smile. He looked at Rin, Inbin, and Luvia. I have a suggestion. Let's go in together. Together? Rin, Inbin, and Luvia looked at each other. You mean, we'll take 1 heroic spirit each? Wu Yin smirked. You'll deal with the caster. Leave the other heroic spirit to us. We'll split them up and defeat them one by one. We'll also get a rank card each. That's a good idea. That is indeed a solution. Rin, Inbin, and Luvia pondered for a moment before nodding. Okay, let's do that. Big brother and big sister, are you coming too? Ilya smiled excitedly. Then it'll be fine. Don't forget, Caster is hard to deal with. Wu Yin brought Chuju and Makoto to the 2 girls. Makoto. Wu Yin squatted down. He handed a card to Makoto. This is for you. This is... Looking at the card in front of her, Mayu was stunned. Lancer's rank card? Lancer's rank card. Rin, Inbin, and Luvia looked at Wu Yin in shock. You're giving Makoto's rank card? I'm just borrowing it. Wu Yin smiled casually and put the card in Makoto's hand. Use it when it's crucial, got it? Mayu's eyes revealed a touch of emotion. Rank card, that's Wu Yin's goal. Wu Yin gave it to her. Wu Yin must be worried that something might happen to them. That's why he lent her the Lancer gunner card. She wanted to use it to defeat Caster. You, Rin Inbin, had a complicated expression. Isn't the rank card your goal? Aren't you afraid that we won't return it? When the time comes, we can just rob her again. Wu Yin teased, and he rubbed Mio's head. Plus, I don't think Makoto will do that. Makoto held her Lancer card tightly. Her eyes were filled with determination. Leave it to me, Makoto said. Wu Yin smiled. Chapter 1453. Mirror Realm. In this place, the night sky that seemed to be covered by an arc mirror could not be seen. This was because the entire sky was covered by a dense mass of purple objects. One by one, the intricate purple geometric patterns seemed to be carved directly into the sky. One after another, they were arranged neatly in rows, covering the entire sky. In front of the purple geometrical patterns, there's a ring made of purple light. It seems to be encircling something as it rotates and intersects. In the middle of the many rotating rings, there was a purple mist-like sphere that was undulating up and down. Looking up from the riverbank below, the sky was filled with densely packed purple objects. They were like eyeballs, making one's hair stand on end. However, those who were in the know knew that these eyeballs that filled the entire sky were things that could be fatal. These are all magic formations. In the center of the magic formation covering the sky, a figure is floating in the air. She's wearing a purple dress with a bat-like hooded cape. The hood covers her entire body from the nose up, but one can still see her beauty from the bottom half of her face. She is holding a staff as tall as a person. She is floating in the center of the magic formation without moving. Even her aura has been suppressed to the minimum, making her look like a flying statue. However, as long as one was sensitive to magic, they would be able to sense something from this slender figure. Like a ripple, it is spreading in all directions while continuously replenishing the magic power of the purple magic formation army. Not long after, the peace here is broken. At a certain moment, below the magic array that covered the entire sky, a rainbow light rapidly flashed from the riverbank, causing the statue-like slender figure that was suspended in the air to finally move. He lowered his head and looked below. Then, the rainbow light quickly dissipated. 7 figures in a row gradually appeared in this extremely dangerous place, exposed to the air. Wow! Hinajiku and Mikoto couldn't help but exclaim at the sight of the purple formation that looked like eyeballs. Even Wu Yin, who knew this was going to happen, couldn't help but gasp in surprise. This is really against the rules. After exclaiming, Wu Yin turned his gaze to the slender figure floating in the air. Caster Magician, level 70. Level 70? Rank 8? He already has the strength of a rank 8. In addition to those offensive magic formations and the defense of the magic reflection plane, it is no wonder Ilya, Mio, and the others rushed over so aggressively last night. But in less than a minute, they were beaten back with their tails between their legs. But there shouldn't be a problem today. As long as they can fly above those magic formations won't be able to attack them, and the magic reflection plane won't be of any use. If Ilya and Mio join hands, it shouldn't be hard to deal with them. In addition to the Lancer rank card, as long as Mio has the ability to kill with one hit, she will find an opportunity. It's not difficult to defeat Caster. Of course, that is if Caster doesn't have any other means, and if Ilya and Mayu can avoid the attacks of the magic formations in the sky and fly to Caster's side. Let's move. At that moment, Rin Enbin directly ordered, "Fly up in one breath. Kill her." Yes. Ilya, Mio, Ruby, and Sapphire responded in unison. Along with the sound of 2 steps, magical fluctuations emerged from the 2 little girls. Then, the 2 figures circled and shot toward the magician in the sky, like an arrow leaving the string. And this move undoubtedly stimulated the magician, who had lost all reason and only knew how to destroy the enemy in front of him. Caster Magician suddenly spread his hands, and his lips opened and closed at a speed that the naked eye couldn't follow. He made a sharp sound, chanting. Seeing this scene, Wu Yan was surprised. So fast. As if to respond to Wu Yan's surprise, in less than a few seconds, Caster Magician, that specific spell that couldn't be heard, clearly fell, and the magic power that was like a volcanic eruption fiercely surged out from his body and rolled into the magic circle in the sky. In the dense magic formations, the foggy balls that looked like pupils turned and stared at Ilya and Mio, who broke through the sky. Then, like a sniper rifle, they shot down and fell on the 2 little girls. In an instant, the magic formations in the sky fluctuated and purple light beams fell from the sky like raindrops, mercilessly shrouding the 2 little girls. They were like cannon turrets. Chuju and Mikoto were surprised and slightly opened their mouths. So powerful. Isn't this too shameless? Otherwise, why do you think the 4 of us were beaten to the point where we had to flee? Rin and Osaka glanced at Chuju and Mikoto. That's already considered cheating. If it wasn't for those magic formations and that reflection plane, we would have already retrieved the card last night. But it's the same today, Livia said confidently. When Mio and Ilya fly to the magic formations, that which won't be able to do anything. Hearing Livia's confident words, Chuju and Mikoto couldn't deny it. They looked at Ilya and Mio, who nimbly dodged the light beams and flew to the sky and continued to watch the battle. However, Wu Yin frowned. He could sense that as Ilya and Mayu got closer, the magic power of Caster began to gather. It looks like he's going to perform some magic. As expected, he still has some tricks up his sleeve. After saying that, Wu Yin ignored Rin and Osaka and Livia's startled expression and slowly stretched his hand forward. On the other side, Ilya and Mayu flew nimbly in the air, avoiding the light beams that shot towards them, and flew towards Caster Magician. Caster Magician stretched out his hands and drew a trajectory in the air. He was like a musician waving a baton in a concert. The magic circle in the sky responded to the movements of Caster Magician. With a tremor, a purple beam of light burst out and fell to the ground. Physical defense at maximum scale. Ruby's nervous voice echoed in the air. Be careful, Ilya. If you get hit at this distance, with the power of magic from the mythological era, the damage may not be completely blocked. The attack is getting more and more intensive. Mayo-sama, Sapphire also said, widen the distance first, and then attack in one breath. Ilya and Mayu silently moved and quickly spread to the sides. While avoiding the incoming light beam, they turned around and flew up. Finally, they arrived above the magic array. Watch me. Ilya raised her magic wand and fiercely waved it down, and a barrage of pink magic cannonballs burst out in an instant, attacking Caster, Magician. Humph! Caster, Magician, seemed to make a nasal sound, and the staff in his hand was also raised to the front. A circle of invisible waves immediately spread out, and all the pink light balls in front of him were swept away like thunder. Bang, 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 bang. The light bullets that were shot at Caster, Magician, suddenly stopped, and all of them exploded. Now, not far away, Mio's eyes flashed with a sharp light, and her figure burst out, coming to the back of Caster, and the magic wand in her hand was pressed against it. Maximum scale? Shoot! The magic wand in her hand flashed with a magical light, but Mio's voice stopped abruptly, because Caster, who was originally pressed against the back of Mio, flashed and disappeared. Space transfer. Mio's face changed dramatically. Then, Caster's figure appeared behind Mio. With a ferocious smile, the magic wand in the hand of Caster flashed with a magical light. Chapter 1454. Mayu, looking at Caster, Magician, who was holding his magic staff high in the air, and the tip of his magic staff flashing with electric light, and Mio, who was facing away from Caster, Magician, with her back exposed, Rin Hasaka and Luvia both turned pale with fright. Lord Mayu, Sapphire also exclaimed. Mayu clenched her teeth and tightened her back, ready to take the blow from Caster, Magician. Bang! At this moment, a crisp sound of glass shattering resounded clearly in the air. Whoosh! Then a dazzling meteor rose from below, like a blooming star. With a light tail, it shot toward Caster, Magician. Caster, who had completely lost his mind, suddenly stopped his movement. The mana in his body seemed to be blocked by something, and it fiercely stopped on Caster's body. Instinctively, Caster, Magician, stopped all attacks and leaned back at the critical moment. Whoosh! Almost in an instant, the bright meteor passed by less than 5 centimeters in front of the Magician at an unimaginable speed and fell on the arc-light, mirror-like sky above. Dawn! A loud boom resounded in the sky. Mayu quickly adjusted her position and looked in the direction of the meteor in surprise. At the bottom of the river, Wu Yin was standing with Chuju, Mikoto, Rin Inbin, and Luvia. She was holding a beautiful black bow that looked like a black crystal. She was aiming at the place where Caster, Magician, was. Clearly, the meteor just now. It was shot from that bow. At the critical moment, Wu Yin used Meteor Knight, shot an arrow, and directly smashed the magic reflection plane set by Caster, Magician, and made Caster, Magician, stop attacking Mayu. The sound of glass shattering was the sound of the magic reflection plane being pierced by the arrow of Meteor Knight. Under Mayu's stunned gaze, Wu Yin put down Meteor Knight in his hand. A smile appeared on his face, and his lips moved slightly. Mayu immediately read the 2 words that came out of Wu Yan's lips in a very subtle manner. Let's go. At that moment, Mayu's line of sight condensed and shot toward the Caster, Magician, who was less than 5 meters away from her. At this time, Caster, Magician, was still in the posture of leaning back, and the magic in his body had not had time to run. Class card. Lancer, Lancer. Limited expansion. A bright red card flew out from a card holder on Mayu's thigh. It shot towards a sapphire in Mayu's hand and collided with the front of the 6-pointed star ring on the sapphire, releasing a ray of divine light. Sapphire's body shone with a strong light. Her body gradually elongated and turned into a red spear in Mayu's hand. Pierce! Mayu pointed her foot in the air, holding the red spear in her hand. Her figure turned into a red lightning and shot toward Castor, magician. Spear of death. In the next moment, the crimson spear pierced out. Poochie, the sound of tearing echoed in the sky. Hey, Castor, magician, made a strange groan from her mouth. As if she couldn't believe it, she looked at her chest. In the position of the magician's heart, the spear of piercing death pierced through her body and came out from her back. Castor, magician, as head drooped. Her body turned into flying ash and gradually dissipated. In her original position, a card floated there and fell into Mei Yu's hand. It was a card that reflected a sage wearing a robe and holding a staff as tall as a person. At the bottom of the card, there was the word Castor, magician, in the center. Class card, Castor, magician. Recovery complete. Mei Yu gently breathed a sigh of relief. She wiped the cold sweat on her forehead. Just now, it was really dangerous. If it wasn't for the arrow shot by Meteor Knight, Mei Yu would have been hit at least once, and she would have inevitably ended up injured. Phew! Ilya also breathed a sigh of relief. I was scared to death. In the sky, the magic circle broke one by one, turned into stars, and gradually dissipated, confirming the end of the battle. It wasn't until this moment that Rin, Enbin, and Luvia realized what had just happened. Their shoulders slumped as if they had relaxed. Really, such a tight battle. It's not good for the heart. Rin Enbin complained, then looked at Wu Yin. Her pretty face became more sinister. You bastard, since you have powerful means to penetrate the magic circle, why didn't you use it at the beginning? Wouldn't that save a lot of trouble? You're blaming me? Wu Yin held Meteor Knight in his hand and said with a smile, isn't that your prey? If I attack, with your personality, you'll definitely accuse me of stealing your prey, right? Renenbin's expression froze. He was speechless. This bout, on the side, Luvia glanced at the Meteor Knight in Wu Yan's hand. Her face was filled with doubt. Is this a noble artifact? Oh. Wu Yan raised an eyebrow. You have a good noble artifact? Impossible. Renenbin was also shocked. He quickly refuted. How can a human have a noble artifact? Well, my situation is special. If you want to know the reason behind it, you'll have to investigate it yourself. Wu Yin spread his hands. His expression became serious. Moreover, he raised Meteor Knight in his hand and pointed it in a certain direction. I'll take out Meteor Knight. He placed his hand on the bowstring. Bright starlight appeared out of nowhere and condensed into a dazzling arrow. It's not as simple as that. His wine-red eyes narrowed. There was a cold glint in them. To save Mei Yu. After saying that, Wu Yin gently let go of his hand. Whoosh! The bright meteor bloomed, leaving a trail of light that looked like the Milky Way. It pierced through the air and shot forward. Before the group of girls could react to what had happened, a pitch-black crescent-shaped sword ray suddenly shot out in front of the meteor, meeting the arrow of the Meteor Knight. Boom! Sparks and explosions swept across the place where the collision occurred, creating a wave of wind that blew in all directions. This sudden scene caused Rin Hasaka, Luvia, Ilya, Mio, and the others who flew down from the sky to reveal shocked expressions. Soon after, they finally recalled something. I see. Rin Enbin's green eyes stared at the sparks in front of him. Another enemy? Kacha! Kacha! Under everyone's gaze, heavy footsteps sounded from the sparks in front of them, as if heavy metal was knocked on the ground. Along with the sound of footsteps, a black dot appeared in the center of the blazing fire, as if it had been contaminated. It was slowly expanding. Not long after, the owner of the footsteps and the full appearance of the black that were imprinted in the eyes of everyone present. That was a young girl wearing heavy armor from head to toe. Although it was said to be heavy armor, it was more accurate to say that it was a princess dress with an armor covering the upper part of the body. Moreover, both the dress and the armor were pitch black, giving off an ominous feeling. She's wearing an eye patch-like iron shield over her eyes. The girl has a head of dull but bright golden hair that's coiled behind her head. She looks very capable. In her hand, she's holding a sword that's darker than any other color and has bright red veins on it. Black and red mist rose around her body. Or perhaps it's more accurate to say that it's dense enough to be seen with the naked eye. With the pitch-black sword in her hand, the girl arrived in front of everyone with heavy footsteps that sounded like metal hitting the ground. Looking at the figure of the young girl who seemed to represent inauspiciousness and darkness, as well as the black fog that pervaded around her, everyone's expressions were all frozen on the spot. The air rippled with oppression. Chapter 1455. Saber, Swordsman. Level 75. The blazing flames became the background of the girl with the sacred sword in her hand. The heroic spirit with the class Saber, Swordsman, carried an indescribably ominous atmosphere and a pressuring presence that made Rin Inbin, Luvia, Ilya, and Mio sweat. Amidst the heavy footsteps, the heroic spirit walked towards them. A second heroic spirit. Rin Inbin and the others couldn't help but take a step back. The ominous and oppressive aura coming from the heroic spirit made their hearts tremble. Subconsciously, they didn't want to get close to the heroic spirit. From this point alone, Rin Inbin, Ruvia, Ilya, and Mio knew one thing. The heroic spirit with the black sacred sword in front of them was definitely stronger than the caster, magician, from before. Moreover, it was more than one level stronger. With this thought in mind, Rin Inbin and the others almost couldn't believe it. If Wu Yan's group didn't come and tell them that there was another heroic spirit, they would have to face the Saber, Swordsman, in front of them. If they didn't know what would happen to them. Indeed, it was just like what Wu Yan said at the beginning. He was here to save them. Unlike Rin Inbin and the others who could only vaguely feel that the Saber, Swordsman, was strong, Wu Yan, Chuju, and Mikoto clearly knew the Saber, Swordsman, level from the feedback from the system. They looked at each other. Level 75? Isn't that the same level as the three of them right now? However, Wu Yan, Chuju, and Mikoto didn't find it strange. For a heroic spirit to meet the requirements of the Saber, Swordsman, other than magic power, the rest of the abilities must be of the highest level, far surpassing the requirements of the other classes. In other words, in terms of the requirements for heroic spirits, Saber was undoubtedly the one that had the highest requirements for the abilities of heroic spirits among the 7 classes. Therefore, among all the heroic spirits, it was extremely rare for a heroic spirit to become a Saber sword. Therefore, how could the Saber, Swordsman, not be strong? Moreover, the heroic spirit who was clad in thick, pitch-black armor and wielding a pitch-black sacred sword was emitting a dense mist of mana that was visible to the naked eye. Everyone present could clearly tell that the heroic spirit was a heroic spirit. Even her magic power was not below the heroic spirits of the other classes. All abilities of the heroic spirit were of the highest level. This heroic spirit must be strong, but facing a heroic spirit of the same level as them, Wu Yan, Chuju, and Mikoto looked at each other with the same burning desire to fight. Ignoring the heroic spirit of the swordsman, the heroic spirit, and the swordsman looked at each other. They looked at each other silently. For a while, they spread out and formed a circle around him. Seeing this scene, Rin Inbin and the others were first confused, then dumbfounded. Scissors, rock, paper. The 3 men who formed a circle shouted and raised their clenched fists. As soon as the word paper was uttered, the 3 of them threw their fists in front of their faces with all their might. They made a hand gesture. Looking closely, Wu Yan was the scissors while Chuju and Mikoto were the paper. Damn it. Why did you have to use paper? Chuju and Mikoto looked at the paper in their hands unwillingly and turned their heads away angrily. I won. Wu Yan laughed and stood in front of the heroic spirit of the swordsman. His eyes revealed a burning desire to fight. Then it's my turn. At this point, how could Rin Tozaka, Luvia, Ilya, and Mio not know what was going on? The 3 of them. They were obviously deciding who would go up and fight the heroic spirit of the swordsman. Hey, are you guys all right? Rin Inbin shouted like he was going crazy. What kind of situation is this? You still want to fight? That heroic spirit isn't just any heroic spirit. She's very strong. Ruvia couldn't accept it either. Isn't it wiser to fight her together? Oni-san. Iria gripped her wand and shouted. You guys should fight her together. Why don't we go with you? It's too dangerous to fight her alone. Even Meiyu furrowed her brows. She looked at Wu Yin, who was standing at the front with a worried expression. Aren't you guys underestimating Yin too much? Hinajiku and Mikoto retreated to the side of Rin's group. Their eyes were fixed on Wu Yin. That heroic spirit is very strong. Mikoto glanced over. But it's not to the extent that Yin needs to team up with someone else. Huh? Rin Inbin couldn't believe it. Even if that heroic spirit is strong, there's no need to fight her alone, right? The most important thing is to get the card back, right? Indeed, the rank card is very important to Yin. He has to get it. Chuju said seriously. But, to us, the mission isn't the most important thing. Isn't it necessary to enjoy the rewards after completing the mission? Rin Inbin couldn't understand. What if something happens to that heroic spirit? Something unexpected. Hinajiku and Mikoto chuckled, half joking and half serious. Then let him die. At this moment, Rin, Inosaka, and the others were completely dumbfounded. Are they serious or just joking? Only Hinajiku and Mikoto would know if they were serious or just joking. But Wuyan knew he had to be serious this time. Looking at the heroic spirit's eyes that were covered with metal armor, Wu Yin slowly gathered his strength and looked up with a smile. Bang! Like an explosion, a torrent of mana rose from Wu Yan's body and turned into a gust of wind that blew to every corner of the room. Saber seemed to have sensed something. The black and red magic mist on its body seemed to be boiling as it violently surged. Then, Saber raised the pitch-black holy sword in his hand. The rising black mist wrapped around the sword like a current of air and rubbed against the sword, forming a black ray of light. Heroic Spirit held the sword with both hands and swung it down with all its might. A strange sound rang out as a black crescent-shaped sword beam shot out from the pitch-black holy sword. It sliced through the ground and headed straight for Wu Yan. A slash formed from pure mana. Wu Yin raised an eyebrow and raised his meteor shower again. Then let's see if your holy sword beam is stronger, or if my meteor knight arrows are stronger. Wu Yin pulled back the bowstring of meteor shower. Specks of starlight gathered to form a silver arrow and aimed at the incoming black sword ray. Xiao! The sound of something breaking through the air rang out, and a meteor-like arrow was shot out. In a most violent manner, it abruptly collided with the incoming sword ray. Dong! The two attacks collided and instantly exploded, setting off a blazing fire. However, the fire didn't last long before it was broken by a meteor-like arrow. The arrows from Meteor Knight continued to fall on Saber's body without any signs of slowing down. Bang! Another burst of fire followed by the sound of an explosion. The area where Saber was located was filled with flames. However, the smile on Wu Yan's face slowly faded and his eyebrows furrowed. On the other side, Heroic Spirit stood there unscathed. Around her body, a protective shield made of black mist was constantly rotating. The attack of the Meteor Knight had been completely blocked by this layer of fog. What a dense mana! Rin Inbin and the others were shocked. She blocked my noble artifact's attack? You blocked my noble phantasm's attack with a mist made of pure mana? Wu Yin suddenly laughed. His laughter was surprisingly sarcastic. If that's the case, inside the space a ray of light appeared behind Wu Yin, and it split the space in half. The ray of light fell down, and it spread the space in half. It was as if a door was opening. A crimson space replaced the original space, and pitch-black longswords emerged from within. Do you have the ability to block all my noble artifacts? Chapter 1456. Do you have the ability to block all the noble phantoms here? Along with this sentence, pitch-black swords, sabers, spears, and various other weapons that were purely made of iron sand emerged from the crimson space one after another in the rippling space. All of them were noble phantoms. All of them are noble phantoms. Looking at the crimson space filled with pitch-black weapons that numbered in the hundreds and thousands, Rin Inbin, Luvia, Ilya, and Mio cried out in shock. Are you kidding me? Of course, I'm not kidding. All of them are noble phantoms. However, strictly speaking, these noble phantoms are only one type. That is, the iron sand that made them up. However, by transforming the iron sand into the shape of weapons, these weapons made of iron sand have the same power as noble phantoms. Although they don't have the unique ability of the Spear of Death, judging from their strength and power, these weapons that appeared from the Gate of Babylon can be used as noble phantoms. Not only their strength and power, these weapons are also noble phantoms. After all, the iron sand that formed them had long been turned into a true noble relic by the Knight Never Dies by Bare Hand's ability that could turn any weapon into a noble relic. Therefore, no matter how you look at it, except for the fact that they don't have any unique ability, these weapons are all noble phantoms. High-density magic fog? Wu Yin grinned as he stood beneath the crimson space and the pitch-black artifacts that covered the entire crimson space. If you can block it, then let's see. As soon as he finished his words, swords, spears, and all kinds of treasures made of iron sand shot out like bullets from the Gate of Babylon. All of them were imbued with magic power. Amidst the sharp and messy sound of the air being pierced, the treasures rained down on the saber like a storm. Boom, boom, boom. He didn't even last a second. The magical mist that swirled around Saber's body like a protective barrier was destroyed like a dried twig. Numerous pitch-black noble phantasms fell onto the Saber's body. If this attack was effective, then, even if the opponent was a saber sword soldier, it was inevitable that he would end up being riddled with holes. However, at this moment, Saber was like a puppet that was activated. It suddenly raised its head. It let out a cold shout. The next moment, Saber raised the pitch-black sacred sword in its hand. It was surrounded by black magic fog. With a wave of its hand, the sacred sword slashed through the space in front of it. Ding, ding, ding. The pitch-black noble phantoms and the pitch-black sacred sword collided with each other, creating a crisp sound. Saber swung the noble phantoms in its hand. It created a sword shadow and collided with the noble phantoms. It actually swept away all the noble phantoms. Obviously, when comparing the ranks of the treasures, the pitch-black holy sword in Saber's hand was far stronger than the treasures made of iron sand. Saber coldly shouted again. The soles of its feet fiercely stepped on the ground. Its body turned into a black light and rushed towards Wu Yin. Its speed was incomparably fast. The sacred sword in its hand slightly trembled. The tip of the sword turned into a pitch-black shadow, cunningly and viciously stabbing out. Its target is Wu Yan's neck. Ding! However, the sacred sword that was stabbing towards Wu Yan's neck made such a sound. Because a light long sword, who knows when it appeared in Wu Yan's hand, it was held horizontally in front of him. The tip of the sacred sword just happened to stab into the thin blade. As expected, looking at Saber's face, Wu Yin increased the strength of his hand. That kind of attack, there is no way to bring you any real harm. Clang! After speaking, Wu Yin fiercely swung his Niandan Shana and deflected Saber's sacred sword. However, melee combat was Saber's forte. Even without its intellect, the sword skills were carved into Saber's soul by instinct. Shio! Immediately, Saber retracted the sacred sword in its hand and pulled it behind its back, turning it into a cunning stab, tearing through the obstruction of the air, bringing about a sharp sound, and once again stabbing out like lightning. Bang! Looking at the cunning sacred sword, Wu Yin hurriedly leaned back. The soles of his feet fiercely stomped on the ground, creating a heavy sound, his body explosively retreating. Saber followed closely behind. The holy sword in his hand danced in the air, creating one sword shadow after another. The angle of each sword strike was extremely tricky. It was either a stab, a flick, a slash, or a cut. It was a fierce attack. Facing the sky, full of slashes, Wu Yin retreated while using his Niandan Shana to block the attacks of the sacred sword. Ding, ding, dang, dang. As one of them retreated and the other attacked, the two of them quickly moved on the battlefield. Their rough footsteps created clouds of dust. The pitch-black sacred sword clashed with the neon temple of Shana, creating a sky full of sparks and a series of crisp sounds. Saber was originally a sword knight. In terms of sword skills, it could not be said that it was not superb. Although it has lost its rationality, it was still able to use the sword skills carved into its bones. Even if it did not have the ability to judge the situation, it was still able to use sword skills to attack. On top of that, Wu Yin has the infinite arms refinement. His mind, skill, and body are all one. He can use any weapon to the point of perfection. Add that to his high level of skill, his close combat ability is even above Saber, swordsman. Therefore, even if he was retreating and receiving the fierce attacks of Saber, Wu Yan's defense was neither fast nor slow. Although it seemed that he was in a disadvantageous situation, in fact, he was not in a disadvantageous position at all. Just like that, a man and a heroic spirit began a super high-degree close combat, causing the spectators, other than Chuju and Mikoto, to be dumbstruck. Amazing. Ilya could no longer find any other adjectives to describe her current feelings. Truly amazing. It's impossible for us to interfere. Miyuki stared at the two of them in the battle. This level of battle is not something that we can interfere with. Not only does that sword-wielding heroic spirit possess the ability to repel powerful magic spells and black mist, it can even form a combined attack of magic and sword pressure. Also, that brilliant sword technique. Livia forced a smile on her face. It can fight both close combat and long range. If we were to fight against it, it would be very troublesome. That man is the same. Rin in Osaka stared at Wu Yin, who was retreating and dealing with Saber's attacks with ease and clenched her teeth. When we first met him, he already displayed terrifying magic skills. Now, he's shown his combat ability that's on par with the heroic spirits. His combat and magic skills have both exceeded the average standards. I'm afraid even the frontline combat experts and magicians of the Magic Association would have to admit defeat, right? After saying that, Rin Inbin recalled the hundreds and thousands of relic artifacts that had appeared in the Crimson Space. She forced a smile on her face. No matter if it's the heroic spirit or that man, they're all monsters. Just as he thought that, Hinajiku and Mikoto's conversation was heard by Rin Inbin, Ruvia, Ilya, Mio, and even Ruby and Sapphire. That guy isn't serious at all. Mikoto frowned in dissatisfaction. It shouldn't be hard to deal with that kind of irrational opponent, right? That heroic spirit is irrational, but her instincts are outstanding. She should have a strong intuition. Hinajiku, who was also an expert in close combat, had a different opinion. There were a few times when you wanted to fight back, but that heroic spirit seemed to know what was going on. Every time it happened, she would attack more fiercely. That heroic spirit can't possibly be rational. She must have a strong intuition. Indeed, Mikoto also noticed. However, intuition alone can't win against words. At most, we can stall for time. Chuji nodded. The battle won't last long. Rin in Osaka and the others were speechless. Now they understand. This group of nominal enemies are not on the same level as them. Chapter 1457. A deep and cold shout that sounded as if it came from an eerie abyss echoed from the mouth of Saber. Every time, it would cause the black magic fog on its body to boil violently, stirring up waves of energy that blew across the ground. Heavy footsteps shuffled across the ground, its golden hair fluttering in the wind. Saber's body surged with mana. Its slender body was like a leaf in the wind, flashing towards the retreating Wu Yan. At the same time, the pitch-black holy sword radiance shot out, leaving behind afterimages as it slashed out mercilessly. Each slash produced a clear whistling sound that reverberated in the air. Ding, 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 ding. Dang, dang. Clang. He used Nietono no Shana to block Saber's onslaught of pitch-black sacred swords without missing a beat. Wu Yin frowned as he thought to himself, "This is going to be tricky." Just as Chuju said, in terms of close combat techniques, Wu Yan's technique was above Saber's. Even if Saber's main body were to descend, the result would still be the same. However, Saber's intuition was too strong. Every time Wu Yin tried to counterattack, it would increase the frequency of its attacks and nullify his threat, causing the battle to drag on. If he didn't think of a way to change the current situation, this battle would continue until daybreak without a victor being decided. Unless Wu Yin releases his familiars and blasts Saber to smithereens, he won't be able to do so. However, this mirror world could not withstand a single blow from Wu Yan's vassal beast. Even with the restriction bracelet restricting its strength, Wu Yan's vassal beast was still not something an ordinary person could withstand. In order to withstand a single blow from Wu Yan's vassal beast, the opponent had to be at least a rank 9 powerhouse. Therefore, if Wu Yin released his vassal beast, this mirror world would be destroyed without a doubt. As a result, the people inside suffered a calamity. Of course, even if he didn't release his vassal beast, that didn't mean Wu Yin didn't have a way. Ding! A thought flashed through his mind. Wu Yin deflected the incoming sacred sword with a swing of his blade. He stopped retreating, he leaped up and bounced off the ground with both feet. He leaped into the air. Saber, who didn't have any intelligence, naturally didn't expect the enemy in front of it to suddenly disappear from its field of vision. It charged past Wu Yin, who had leaped into the air. He arrived at Wu Yan's side. Seeing this, Wu Yin spun around in midair and stomped heavily on the air. As if he was stepping on solid ground, he swooped down toward the saber below him. The Neen Temple Shana, in his hand, rotated half a circle and pulled it behind his back. Then, with a ferocious force, he swung it down at the saber below him. The sharp piercing sound and ferocious energy made Saber, who had rushed past, raise its head. The pitch-black holy sword in its hand turned, and the black mist on its body immediately rolled up like a gust of wind, covering the body of the holy sword. The surrounding air suddenly seemed to have been torn apart, bringing about a piercing sound of wind breaking. Then, Saber raised his holy sword and slashed at the sky. In an instant, a crescent-shaped pitch-black sword ray shot up and collided with Nyedan Shana. Dong! The sound of the collision reverberated in the air for a long time. Wu Yin only felt an unparalleled destructive force being unleashed on Nyedan Shana. Saber's magic slash exploded on Nyedan Shana. Pong! With a dull sound, Wu Yan's Nyedan Shana was blasted out of his hand. The agile long sword flew into the air. Wu Yan's expression changed after losing his weapon. In the distance, Rin Enbin and the others also cried out. Ha! With another cold shout, Saber leaped up and slashed towards Wu Yin, who was floating in the air with its pitch-black holy sword. Careful! Rin Enbin, Luvia, Ilya, Mio, and the others instinctively cried out in alarm. Only Hinajiku and Mikoto could see that Wu Yan's face, who was facing the attack of Saber, suddenly curled up into a small smile. Soon after, the group of young ladies saw it. Wu Yin, who was cut in half by Saber's pitch-black holy sword, disappeared into thin air. It was just an afterimage. Behind Saber, another afterimage suddenly appeared like a flash of lightning. Looking up at Saber's back, Wu Yan's eyes flashed with a sharp light. Lightning fist. Amidst a cacophony of electronic sounds, the bluish-white electric current coiled around Wu Yan's fist, imbuing his small fist with a ferocious power that one cannot ignore. Wu Yin clenched his fist, and with an oppressive sound of tearing air, he viciously punched the back of Saber, who was still in a slashing position. Amidst a flash of blue and white, his fist came crashing down. Bang! A dull sound reverberated in the air, causing the hearts of the onlookers to skip a beat. Oomph! Saber's slender body tumbled in the air as she felt a violent force coming from behind her, causing her to fly backwards. Before Saber could catch his breath, adjust his body, and turn around to counterattack, an unusual ripple spread out in the air and entered everyone's senses. Everyone, including Saber, who hadn't adjusted his body yet, turned their attention to the source of the unusual energy wave. What entered everyone's eyes was a crimson sky that covered the entire corner of the space. Pitch-black sabers, swords, spears, and all sorts of treasures that were made from iron sand slowly reached out from the crimson space and aimed at the saber that was flying backward. Wu Yin stood under the crimson sky with a triumphant smile on his face. Ba ba! As soon as he finished his words, the rain of relics covered the sky and the sun. In an instant, all of them fell on Saber's body. Bang! With a deep thud, Saber, who was covered by the black rain of relics, let out a painful grunt at the last moment. Then, with the rain of relics, it fell to the ground not far away. Kaboom! Like an explosion, the ground exploded. Regardless of whether it was those pitch-black treasures or sabers, all of them were buried in the fire and disappeared without a trace. We won. Not far away, Ilya was the first to cheer. She didn't hide her joy at all. Phew! Makoto also let out a sigh of relief. Her cold expression softened quite a bit. Rin and Osaka and Livia regained their senses from the sudden turn of events. They looked at each other and saw the difficulty and seriousness in each other's eyes. This was because they had truly come to realize that just how strong is the enemy that they will face because of the rank card, and how slim would the chances of them getting cards of all ranks be. What Rin and Rivia didn't know was that their actions were being observed by Hinajiku and Mikoto, who were quietly observing them from the side. At that moment, Hinajiku and Mikoto looked at each other with an expression that said, "This is what I expected." In front of them, Wu Yin came to the side of Nyet-un no Shana that was stabbed into the ground. He grabbed the handle and pulled it out. Even if he doesn't care about it, as Wu Yan's relic, Nyet-un no Shana will return to its master's side. Also, the Gate of Babylon also has a recycling function. It will definitely retrieve Nyet-un no Shana and the relic. It's a very convenient function. Caressing Nyet-un no Shana in his hand, Wu Yin threw it back into the Gate of Babylon. He looked at the explosion in front of him and wanted to walk over. But the scene that appeared made his expression change, and he stopped in his tracks. Whoom! The surrounding space trembled and set off a shocking shockwave. In front of him, the fire was dispersed and the situation inside was exposed. Amidst the flames, a terrifying black fog was frantically rising up. Chapter 1458. Whoosh! Gales howled in the sky as they ran through space. They were like sharp blades as they scraped across the earth, bringing about terrifying whistling sounds. An ominous aura spread out from the flames in front of them. That aura seemed to be able to wipe out all life. It brought about an oppressive feeling. The black fog seemed to have substance. It turned into streams of air and swirled in the fierce wind that filled the sky, making whistling sounds. What happened? Rin Inbun, Luvia, Iria, Mio, and the others were shocked. Even Chuju and Mikoto were shocked. What happened? On the opposite side of the black mist, Wu Yin looked at the center of the black mist. His eyes gradually became serious. In the whistling sound, the black mist formed a stream of air. It was like water flowing out of a dam. It rolled and flowed down. Over there, the saber swordsman, whose black armor had been smashed into tatters, revealed his black ceremonial attire. He held a pitch-black sacred sword in his hand and lowered his head. His body was surging violently with a black-purple magical mist that resembled raging flames. An ominous aura that could frighten one's heart rose into the air. Ha! A beast-like roar came from Saber's body. It sent chills down everyone's spine. The black mist formed a stream of air that flowed to her side. It was like a tornado. It stirred up waves of air. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Saber held the sword with both hands. He raised the pitch-black sacred sword slightly. The black mist seemed to have found its destination. It flowed in the air and flowed to the black sacred sword. It then wrapped around it. That scene was similar to when Wu Yin used Chaotic Return to Horizon Dance. The space couldn't bear the heavy pressure. It started to creak. Seeing this scene, Wu Yan's expression changed. The true name of the noble relic, liberation. Every famous relic that belonged to the heroic spirits in myths, legends, and history had a unique name that belonged to them. Among these famous noble relic, Some of them were extremely powerful, noble relic with amazing effects. Usually, when its owner used it, it would hide its power and use it as a weapon or tool. When the owner of the noble relic said the true name of the noble relic, this noble relic usually hid its power. When it was used as a weapon or tool, it would release its power and effect. It would release its true power. When the user said the true name of the noble relic, the process of releasing its true power was called true name liberation. It was like the spear of piercing death. When it was used normally, it would only be a sharp and tough spear. However, once the user uttered its unique name, the spear of piercing death, the spear of piercing death will be able to unleash the terrifying ability of piercing death, which would first determine the karma, and then the karma, achieving a true one-hit kill. Now, what Saber was about to do was exactly what Kieran was going to do. True name, liberation. Saber, sword weapon, was about to unleash the true power of the pitch-black holy sword in his hand. Not good. Rin and Osaka and Livia's faces were filled with shock. That attack is no joke. Big brother. Wu Yan and San. Even Iria and Mio's heart couldn't help but beat faster. Their pupils shrunk to the size of a needle. Hinajiku and Makoto didn't look relaxed at all. Their faces were serious. White cherry appeared in Hinajiku's hand, and blue and white electric current jumped around Makoto's body, proving how much importance they placed on Saber's attack. In the center of the field, Wu Yin stared at the pitch-black sacred sword that was absorbing the black energy into the sword. He felt the pressure in the air. He took a deep breath. Mana formed a flood around his body and exploded like a shockwave. What is he doing? Rin and Osaka and the others widened their eyes in disbelief. Is he trying to fight force with force? Everyone knew the answer soon enough. Wu Yin slowly extended his hand toward Saber. Amidst the mana flow, Wu Yin slowly extended his hand toward Saber. All of the mana in his body flowed and gathered in his palm. Then, two dark red magic arrays rippled out and intertwined with each other, forming a connection. Wu Yin is indeed trying to fight force with force. The crisscrossing crimson magic array suddenly broke apart inch by inch, and pitch-black cracks instantly covered the entire magic array. Within the pitch-black crack, a terrifying aura that was on par with the aura emitted from Saber spread out, instantly filling every corner of this space. Saber seemed to have sensed something, and the holy sword in its hand was raised as well. Surging black airflow surged into the sword's body. Finally, the pitch-black sacred sword turned into a pitch-black ray of light. At this moment, the entire mirror world seemed to be divided into two. Two monstrous auras collided with each other and set off a storm. The girls held their breaths. Their faces were pale, and they didn't dare to move. At a certain moment, Excalibur, the space trembled, and a pitch-black beam of light cut through the world, shooting out like a bolt of lightning. Boundless and terrifying violent energy flashed from within the pitch-black beam of light. Everywhere it passed, the space emitted a sharp and unusual sound, as if it would collapse at any moment. This caused the hearts of the group of young girls to ring wildly as their scalps went numb. Dragon King sigh. In the face of such a terrifying ray of light, Wu Yan's expression didn't change at all. The mana in his body fluctuated. In front of him, on the cracked, dark red magic formation, a white ray of light exploded. It was the exact opposite of the pitch-black ray of light. It flashed like a meteor and went straight for Wu Yan. Under the gazes of the girls, the white ray of light and the pitch-black ray of light flashed at the same time. They passed through the constraints of space and collided at the center. Heaven and earth fell silent. Boom! An earth-shattering boom instantly resounded through the entire sky. An extremely terrifying shockwave violently flashed past the point where the pure white light beam and the pitch-black light beam collided, enveloping everything in this area in a short period of time. Under this terrifying storm of impact, everyone's pretty faces turned pale. They were horrified as they built up defenses to block the terrifying storm of impact that was about to hit them. Boom! In front of them, The collision of the white ray of light and the pitch-black ray of light caused an overwhelming wave of fire and a dense flow of mana. They mixed with each other in midair and swept in all directions like the waves of the sea. The terrifying wave of fire swept in all directions. Even the girls who had erected a barrier were affected. The barrier in front of them was hit by the shockwave of fire, and the shockwave head-on. It broke inch by inch without any suspense. The group of young ladies also felt as if they had been struck by a heavy hammer on their chests. They let out a muffled groan, and their beautiful faces turned even paler. In the sky, the arc mirror that covered the entire sky began to break at this moment. It didn't take long for it to be filled with cracks. The shockwave of fire was like layers of scorching dark clouds. It covered a corner of the mirror realm, including Wu Yin and Saber. The fiery red shockwave rippled repeatedly, reflecting a blazing light that illuminated the shocked and heartbroken faces of the young girls not far away. A moment later, cold sweat flowed down their cheeks. In the face of such a terrifying attack that was almost comparable to a natural disaster, even the many young girls who knew beforehand that this attack would be extraordinary still felt extremely small and weak in their hearts. This kind of power could only be said to be possessed by a legendary hero who transformed into a heroic spirit. Under such circumstances, Wu Yin was able to fight a heroic spirit one-on-one and not be at a disadvantage. There was no need for anyone to explain how strong he was. It was already ingrained in the hearts of all the girls present. Even though they knew that it wasn't right, Rin Inbin and Luvia still couldn't help but have such thoughts. Would he really be able to obtain all the rank cards from such a person? Chapter 1459. After an unknown amount of time, the two auras that had been maintaining the state of collision in midair slowly weakened. Along with the weakening of the horrifying aura, the impact of the fire waves that were like clouds in the mirror world began to dissipate as well. Instead, it was replaced by a thick cloud of dust that filled the sky that was still covered by the tattered arc-light mirror that was riddled with holes. Then, the white beam collided with the black beam, and the place that was covered by the fiery waves was exposed to the air. The ground that was paved with red bricks had turned into an empty land. It was very flat, and there was not even a slightly bigger rock. It looked extremely desolate. In the middle of the empty land, there were two gigantic gullies. There was also a deep pit with a diameter of 100 meters in the middle. Light smoke was coming out of the pit as it floated in the air. At the end of the ravine, Wu Yin and Saber each occupied one side of the ravine, facing each other from afar. However, both of them were in different states. Dressed in a black ceremonial robe, Saber's body was shrouded in black mist. However, the mist had already thinned to an extremely low level. It was completely different from its initial appearance that could be seen with the naked eye. As for Wu Yin, he's clean and tidy, without a trace of being in a sorry state. However, he was kneeling on the ground with one knee, panting slightly. There was a look of exhaustion in his eyes. Looking at this scene, who did not know who had the upper hand in the collision just now? Or rather, it's more surprising that Wu Yin is only a little tired after taking on the attack of Saber's true name Liberation. Yeah, big brother. Wu Yin bro. Apart from Rin, Inbin, and Luvia, the girls shouted out instinctively, breaking the strange silence around them. They wanted to go up to him immediately. However, Wu Yin was staring at Saber. He shouted without turning his head back. Don't come over. The girls stopped moving. Huh. Contrary to the girls, Saber stomped on the ground, and with a low growl, he turned into a black shadow and flashed in front of Wu Yin. He raised the holy sword in his hand and mercilessly slashed at Wu Yin, who was kneeling on the ground. Yin. Chuju and Makoto's expressions changed. Ilya and Miyo's faces turned pale once more. Even Rin Tozaka and Luvia turned their heads away, unable to bear to watch. Only Wu Yin, who was facing a dangerous situation, did not panic in the slightest. He looked at the pitch-black holy sword in his hand and the saber sword weapon that was slashing down at him. He did not move at all. A victorious smile appeared on his face. The girls who clearly saw this scene were startled at first, but they soon noticed it. Above Saber's head, a feather that was emitting a faint glow floated down and fell down gently. That was the second strike of the Dragon King's lament, Wings of Light. It was an attack formed by the first strike of the Dragon King's lament. In a situation where Saber was completely unaware of the situation, Saber was completely unaware. The Wings of Light gently landed on her head. Dong! At that moment, everyone seemed to have heard a muffled sound that reverberated in their minds. Then, Saber, sword weapon, S movements came to an abrupt halt as if she was struck by lightning. Her delicate body trembled, and with a wah sound, she spat out a mouthful of blood. The pitch-black holy sword that was raised above her head and was about to slash down also fell down. How is it? It doesn't feel good, right? Such a voice lightly echoed as a hand reached out and grasped the pitch-black holy sword. Well, that's only natural. Holding the pitch-black holy sword with one hand, he pressed it down. With one hand holding the Nyetsu no Shana that appeared out of nowhere, Wu Yin looked straight at Saber's eyes that were covered by the iron armor. His eyes flickered with cold light. After all, it's just a small feather. It has the power to kill a dragon. As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of something being torn apart entered everyone's ears. With a smear of blood, Nyedan Shana pierced through Saber, sword soldier, S body and came out from its back, leaving behind a trail of scarlet blood. Saber, sword soldier, S body became sluggish, and the black mist around his body also fluctuated and dissipated. Along with the mist, Saber, sword weapon, S seemingly thin but actually well-tempered body also dissipated. Like starlight, Saber, sword weapon, S body turned into tiny particles of light and dissipated. What replaced her position was a card. The design of the card was a knight holding a slender knight sword in front of his chest and making a knight salute. The words Saber, sword weapon, were engraved at the bottom. Taking a deep breath, Wu Yin extended his hand and accepted the Saber, swordsman, rank card. Card, Saber, sword weapon, a card made with advanced magic theory. It has the magical ability to trigger a hero spirit's power that corresponds to the card's rank. The usage method is as follows: limited expansion. Using the magic attire as the medium and the card as the pass to the hero spirit's seat, the hero spirit's relic that corresponds to the card can be materialized for a short period of time. Note, this card is Saber, sword weapon. The hero spirit's relic is Excalibur. Parallel limited expansion, with multiple magic attire as the medium and the class card as the pass to the seed of heroes. Multiple heroic spirits relic corresponding to the class card can be materialized. The same relic can be materialized repeatedly. This is the overlapping expansion mode of limited expansion. Note, this card is Saber, sword weapon. The hero spirit's relic is Excalibur. Dream summoning, using the user's body as the medium and the card as the pass to the hero spirit's seat. The hero spirit's power that corresponds to the card can be materialized on the user's body, allowing the user to transform into a hero spirit and obtain the power of the hero spirit's corresponding rank. Note, this card is Saber, sword weapon. The hero spirit's relic is King Arthur from ancient Britain. Pendragon, Excalibur, the most powerful relic owned by King Arthur in ancient British legend. It is regarded as the most powerful and most honorable sacred sword that symbolizes King Arthur himself. It is an existence that stands at the apex of the category of sacred sword. It is forged by the planet itself, using people's faith as the raw material. It is one of the ultimate God-made armaments that crystallized inside the planet. It can transform the user's magic into light and release an attack that destroys everything like a beam from the front end of the sacred sword when it is swung downwards. It is the ultimate attack that can cut off all the targets that the slash formed by light passes through. Its power is enough to annihilate a solid structure like a city. It is the only confirmed existence that can be called a city-facing relic at the moment. Phew! After confirming the information of the Saber, swordsman, class card, Wu Yin relaxed his body and mind. He sat down on the ground and started gasping for air. As expected of the Excalibur, even the Dragon King's lament almost couldn't defeat it. I had to rely on the second strike of the luminous feather to win. Sure enough, compared to the saber with the same rank and trump card, the pressure is much greater. Yan, Chuju and Mikoto ran over and squatted on either side of Wu Yan. They put their hands on his body. Are you okay? I'm fine. Wu Yan smiled bitterly. I'm just a little tired. Let's talk about it later. Chuju hugged Wu Yan and helped him up. She looked like she was treating a patient, causing Wu Yan's bitter smile to deepen. Big brother. Yan, listen, Ilya and Mikoto also brought Rindo Saka and Livia over. The four of them had different expressions on their faces. Some were excited, some were relieved, some were confused, and some were silent. It seemed like they had a lot to say to each other. Wu Yan shook his head. Let's talk about it next time. I just want to go home and sleep. Everyone didn't say anything, they just nodded. Then, the seven of them left the collapsing mirror realm together. Chapter 1460. The battle with the saber had made Wu Yan feel the fatigue that he had not felt in a long time. There was nothing he could do about it. After all, the saber had the highest requirement to be a heroic spirit among the 7 classes. A heroic spirit that could become a saber might not be the strongest, but it was definitely one of the most powerful. Moreover, this time, Wu Yan's saber was the legendary King Arthur, Artoria. Pendragon. Based on the heroic spirits level, Artoria was definitely one of the top heroic spirits. Even though it was just a clone, it was already at level 75. Coupled with the Excalibur, which was a powerful relic, it was natural that Wu Yan would feel tired since his level was restricted and he could not summon his familiars. The Excalibur was not only a relic, but it was also an A++ relic. Every heroic spirit had its own ability value. Strength, durability, dexterity, magic, luck, and relic. These 6 ability values were also categorized according to their levels. The heroic spirit's ability values were categorized according to their levels, which were D, C, B, A, and EX. These 6 levels clearly indicated the heroic spirit's ability. As for the difference between these 6 levels, if one were to use numbers to make a comparison, the weakest normal ability value would be 1, then a level would be 10. From E level onwards, for every increase in level, one's ability value would increase by 10. In other words, based on this assumption, level E would be 10, level D would be 20, level C would be 30, level B would be 40, and level A would be the highest, which was 50. As for level EX, it did not mean that the ability value was 60. It meant that the ability value did not fit between level E and level A. It was already an exceptional ability value. In other words, level EX meant that it was beyond the range that could be evaluated. It was not comparable to the other 5 levels. As for average, in the ability value, after the E to a level, there would sometimes be a plus. For example, B+, A+, and so on. It meant that the ability value had the special ability to multiply in an instant. For example, if B's value was 40 and A's value was 50, B would not be able to defeat A. B+ ability value was usually 40, and it was no match for A ability value. However, B+ had the ability to multiply in an instant. It could double one's ability value in an extremely short period of time. Therefore, the B+ grade, which was originally 40, became 80 after being multiplied. It was now able to exceed the A grade of 50. Although it was only an instantaneous multiplication ability, a B+ class indeed possessed the ability to surpass an A class in a very short period of time. As such, there were very few heroic spirits who had abilities that could be doubled, and even fewer who had abilities that could be doubled. Level EX meant that the ability value was exceptional. Level E to A did not match this value. They were so strong that there was no point in comparing them. There was no way to use specific numbers to express their ability value. Level A, which also had the ability of ++ doubling, could also be used in an instant. Through doubling, it could be promoted to a level that was comparable to level EX. Excalibur was such an existence. Last night's saber, Sword Soldier, was specifically expressed by such an ability value. How should it be expressed? Wu Yin couldn't figure it out. But what was certain was that last night's saber, sword soldier, among the 6 ability values of strength, durability, dexterity, magic luck, and noble phantasm, at least 2 of them were level A. Excalibur, was level A++, which meant that the level of the saber, sword soldier, noble phantasm, was at least level A++. Coupled with the black magic mist that was enough to defend against powerful magic and magic, it was already a commendable achievement to be able to defeat this saber, sword soldier, under the same level. Looking at it this way, after defeating Saber, Wu Yin only felt a little tired. If an expert were to find out about this, they would be shocked beyond words. Wu Yin, who was familiar with the original novel, was one such expert. Therefore, when Wu Yin found out that he was able to defeat this saber, sword soldier, under the same level without summoning his familiar or using ruby mode, he was very satisfied with the result. That night, when he returned home, he slept soundly on his bed. Therefore, Wu Yin forgot about a very important matter. It wasn't until the next morning that he discovered something. Saber, sword soldier, rider, knight, assassin. Sitting at the head of the table, Wu Yan's mouth twitched as he looked at the 3 cards in his hand. Where's Lancer? Where's Lancer? Lancer. Chuju and Makoto, who were chatting about girls while eating their breakfast, paused for a second before looking at him suspiciously. Are you talking about the Lancer card? Chuju tilted her head. Didn't you lend it to that black-haired girl? Black-haired girl? Wu Yin repeated her words in confusion before he recalled what she said. Yes, I lent the Lancer, to Mayu. Didn't she return it to you? Makoto raised her beautiful eyebrows. That can't be right. That Mayu girl looks so cold. She shouldn't be the type to kick someone to the curb after they've outlived their usefulness. You can't blame her, Makoto. Chuju rolled her eyes. After the battle last night, this guy didn't allow anyone to say anything. He only wanted to go home and sleep, so he rushed back in a hurry. Even he forgot that the Lancer card was in the other party's hands. The other party probably forgot to return the card, right? Also, the Lancer card was also taken from that Livia girl. Mayu seems to be Livia's little sister, right? Makoto slapped her thigh. Don't tell me she doesn't want to return it. Didn't you just say that Mayu isn't the type to kick someone to the curb after they've outlived their usefulness? Wu Yin was embarrassed. Now you think she doesn't want to return it? The Lancer card belongs to her, Makoto retorted. Even if that Mayu girl doesn't want to kick someone to the curb after they've outlived their usefulness, can you guarantee that Livia won't do the same? Wu Yin opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. He didn't know Miyuki for a long time. In fact, it could be said to be very short. However, he didn't think that Miyuki would burn the bridge after crossing it. That's why he lent her the Lancer, Gunner, class card. Livia, on the other hand, might not be the same. Since Rin in Osaka accepted Wu Yan's magic crystals so generously, it's not impossible for Livia to assume that the Lancer card belonged to her in the first place. She didn't want to give it back to Wu Yan, right? Wu Yan shrugged in bewilderment. Oh well, I'm going to visit Rin in Osaka and Livia anyway. I might as well check if the Lancer card has been taken. Visit Rin in Osaka and Livia. Chuju and Makoto's ears twitched. They stopped what they were doing and looked at Wu Yin with a fake smile. Why do you want to visit them? Chuju smiled, but there wasn't a hint of a smile in her eyes. Oomph. Makoto snorted. Her eyes were cold. It's obvious that the 2 arrogant girls were thinking about something else. I just want to know what to do with the remaining berserker. Wu Yin shook his head helplessly. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After all, we have an agreement. We should see what to do with the last Einer jar, right? Chuju and Makoto stared at Wu Yan's face intensely. They were trying to figure out something from his expression. Wu Yan indeed had that intention. He raised his head and puffed out his chest. He didn't feel guilty at all. All right. In the end, the 2 girls reluctantly nodded. Remember to come back early, got it? Wu Yin smiled. Chapter 1461. Is this the area? Walking on a street that's neither too narrow nor too wide, Wu Yin looked at the houses of different sizes and styles. He scratched his face and continued walking forward. Rin in Osaka kept emphasizing that Luvia was a nouveau riche. Even though Wu Yin doesn't know how much property Luvia has, he still remembers the mansion he saw that day when he was in a hurry. In such a normal residential street, such an extravagant mansion is out of place. It couldn't be more conspicuous. Come to think of it, the people who live here should have some impression of it. Wu Yin only came here once under Mei Yu's guidance, but he can still remember it clearly. Thus, after walking along the alleyways of the residential area for a while, the roof of that conspicuous mansion appeared in his field of vision. The cold and vast iron fence also entered his sight. Now that I look at it, it really is a mansion. It's not an exaggeration to call a mansion, right? Standing in front of the iron fence, Wu Yin couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the vast courtyard and mansion. It's comparable to the Spalier World Academy's special student mansion. No wonder Rin kept emphasizing that Luvia was a nouveau riche. After some careful observation, Wu Yin noticed that something isn't quite right with him. Wu Yin reached out and touched the iron fence. He raised his eyebrows. I see. A magic barrier was set up? This is normal. No matter what, he was still the head of a family of magicians. He was also a famous magician. It was understandable that he would set up a magic barrier in his residence. After all, there are some things that ordinary people can't know. However, it's just a barrier that obstructs cognition. A cognitive barrier was set up. In that case, no matter what happened inside the barrier, under normal circumstances, the people outside would not be able to detect it. At the very least, ordinary people won't be able to notice what's happening inside the barrier. They will only see the peaceful mansion in front of them. Other than that, there's no other function. Of course, he can't rule out the possibility that Luvia set up other traps inside the barrier. Wu Yin touched his chin. He couldn't help but have a mischievous thought. Why don't I break the barrier? Barriers that obstruct cognition aren't that advanced. Wu Yin would have to rely on his ability to break them. He can break it with just a flick of his finger. This way, the person who set up the barrier can more or less sense the situation here. If that's the case, it will definitely cause chaos. Well, forget it. I'm not here to fight. In the end, Wu Yin didn't harden his heart and ruthlessly played a trick on Luvia. He reached out his hand. He pushed open the door in front of him. The cognitive barrier doesn't have any defensive effect. Once the door was pushed open, the barrier became useless. The real situation inside the mansion was exposed. Unfortunately, nothing unusual happened inside. The scene inside was exactly the same as what Wu Yin saw from the outside. It's just like an ordinary luxurious mansion. There's nothing strange about it. If one had to point out something that was different from a normal residence, it would be then there's only one. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong dash. This isn't the sound of the doorbell. It's the sound of the alarm. In the air of the mansion, the sound of the alarm sounded like a bell. It echoed in the air. The sound was light and pleasant to the ears. It suppressed the atmosphere inside the mansion to the lowest point. Alarm. Wu Yin was surprised. He was stunned and then sighed. This is an unexpected situation. That's what he said. Wu Yin had an interested look on his face. He ignored the alarm that sounded like a bell ringing as he entered the mansion. The inside of the mansion is much more luxurious than the outside. Not only is there a hall big enough to play hide and seek, there's also a luxurious chandelier hanging from the ceiling. It's obviously expensive. It's not turned off even during the day. It's always on. It emits a soft and peaceful light that illuminates every corner. There was a staircase in front of the hall. Looking up from the staircase, Zhang Tai saw a wooden corridor on the walls of the entire hall. There were doors in those corridors. Zhang Tai guessed that the real residence should be behind those doors. This isn't just an ordinary luxurious mansion. Wu Yin pushed open the door of the hall. Under the protection of the sound of the alarm, he calmly walked into the hall and looked around. Then, what's going to happen next? As soon as he said that, a black shadow suddenly flashed from the corridor above. It leaped down and instantly stood at the entrance of the stairs. It's an old man in a suit. He's at least 60 or 70 years old. Please forgive me for my negligence. The old man pressed one hand on his left chest and bowed. His old eyes flashed with a sharp light as he stared at Wu Yin standing in the center of the hall. An uninvited guest. Indeed, I came uninvited. Wu Yin sized up the old man, and he shrugged. But I'm an old acquaintance of the owner of this mansion. I have no choice but to visit, right? That's really rude, the old man said in a completely formal tone. But, as far as I know, my mistress doesn't seem to know a man of the opposite sex like this guest. If possible, can you let me get to know you first? Get to know me? Wu Yin tilted his body, and he said with a smile that isn't a smile. How? First of all, the old man who was bowing suddenly tensed up. Like a spring, he shot towards Wu Yin and landed in front of him. First, let me know if you're dangerous or not. The old man didn't look like a 60 or 70-year-old man at all. With a side kick, he kicked towards Wu Yan's head with a strong gust of wind. Stop, Ogiest. At this time, a familiar voice came from above. The old man named Ogiest stopped his foot that was about to reach Wu Yan's head. It stopped above Wu Yan's shoulder, less than 5 centimeters away from his cheek. Wu Yan's hair fluttered in the wind due to the kick, but Wu Yan maintained a carefree attitude from start to finish. He didn't even look at the old man named Ogiest. Smoothing out his messy bangs, he raised his head and looked up. He saw Olivia, who was wearing an ordinary home dress, walking down the stairs step by step. She looked dignified as she stared at Wu Yan. There seemed to be some haze between her eyebrows. Back down, Ogiest. She stopped in the middle of the stairs and said in a low voice, You're no match for him. Yes, mistress. Ogiest didn't hesitate and stepped back to the left side of the stairs. He straightened his posture like a loyal servant. Full of spirit, Wu Yin said with a smile, I can guarantee that you can live for another 20 or 30 years. It's not a problem. Thank you for the compliment. Ogiest replied expressionlessly. Then, Olivia looked down at Wu Yin and narrowed her eyes. You should tell me your purpose for barging in, right? Purpose? Wu Yin blinked and smiled. That's what I'm asking. But you already knew that I only have one purpose for coming here, right? What's so strange about that? Olivia let out a cold laugh. I've only interacted with you for one reason, right? That's true. That's true. Wu Yin spread his hands. Unfortunately, you've guessed wrong. Although I'm here for the class card, I'm not here to snatch it or steal it. I'm also not here to look for you. Not here to look for me. Olivia was slightly taken aback and frowned. What do you mean? The famous magician family, the Edfeld family, always talks with their guests in the hall, and they do it in a condescending manner. Wu Yin crossed his arms in front of his chest and curled his lips. Sorry, my neck and legs don't have much stamina. They get tired after a while. What a troublesome guest. Olivia rubbed her forehead. Ogiest welcomed the guest. Chapter 1462. In a guest room, Wu Yin stood at the door and looked at the scene in the room. The corner of his mouth twitched. Wu Yin? In the room, Meiyu looked at Wu Yin, who suddenly appeared. Her small face was full of shock and immediately turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. For Meiyu, who was calm and indifferent and looked at everything very calmly, this was a behavior that would never be seen on a normal day. However, seeing Meiyu's behavior, whether it was Wu Yin or someone else present, they wouldn't find it strange. For a normal person, if she didn't blush at this time, there would be a real problem. This was because the clothes Meiyu was wearing right now weren't her usual casual clothes, nor was it the uniform of the Suichuan primary school. In fact, it wasn't even the outfit of a magical girl. Instead, it was an outfit that was extremely surprising to others. It was a black pleated dress. The skirt was ankle-length and was quite fluffy, like a princess's dress. However, the style was more ordinary than a princess's dress. It was an ordinary style, but it was covered with a white apron-like coat with a white lace on the outside and a white lace headdress on the head. Maid uniform. It was a very standard maid uniform without any decoration or style. It was a very typical maid uniform. At this time, Mei was wearing such a maid uniform, and she was holding a tray in front of her chest. She stared blankly at Wu Yin, who suddenly walked in under odious hospitality. Her small, delicate face was covered with red. Shy? Of course she was, right? Ashamed? A little. What was certain was that Mei wanted to find a hole to hide in or immediately escape from the scene. Woo-woo. The tray in her hand fell to the ground with a clang. Mei covered her face with her hands in shame, as if she was ashamed to see anyone. She almost lost all her strength and fell to the ground. Calm down, Mei. Seeing this, Wu Yin hurriedly said, It's okay. I won't think that your hobby is strange because of this. I will pretend that I didn't see anything. After that, Wu Yin even turned around, intending to leave the scene directly, indicating that he didn't know anything. Instead, Mei panicked and ran to Wu Yan's side. She tugged at his clothes. No, brother Wu Yan. Mei was so anxious that she was about to cry. This is not my hobby. Absolutely not. It's fine, Miyuki. Wu Yan didn't even turn his head as he yelled back. I don't know anything. I'll forget everything later. You don't have to explain. You misunderstood. Mei used both hands to grab onto Wu Yan. She wouldn't let go no matter what. She screamed in anger and embarrassment. It's really not my hobby. Livia forced me to wear it. Livia? Wu Yan, who was about to break free from Mei's hand and rush out of the scene, stopped in his tracks and looked at Livia in disdain. So you have a hobby of making your sister wear maid's clothes? What are you talking about? Who knew that Livia would speak with a matter-of-fact expression? Since Mei agreed to serve me, she naturally has to wear maid's clothes. Don't maids who serve others in Japan wear maid's clothes? Mei agreed to serve you. Wu Yan looked at Livia suspiciously. Then, he remembered. Mei wasn't Livia's biological sister. She was more like an adopted sister. To be precise, she was adopted. Before she met Sapphire and became a magical girl, Mei and Livia had no interactions. After she met Sapphire, she helped Livia retrieve cards and took care of Livia's daily life. She became Livia's sister. In other words, Mei was really serving Livia. Wearing maid's clothes, although it was a little ridiculous, it wasn't incomprehensible. As for meeting Sapphire, before Mei became a magical girl, even Wu Yan didn't know where she came from and what kind of identity she had. After all, the original story of magical girl Ilya that Wu Yan knew wasn't complete until he first transmigrated to the Spalier world. Therefore, Wu Yan didn't know where Mei's identity would be revealed. He only knew some of the more important plots. Thus, it wasn't until Livia brought up some scattered pieces of information that Wu Yan finally recalled some things about Mei. However, since she's a nouveau riche, why don't she just spend some money to hire a maid? Wu Yan glanced at Livia. Is there need to let a child take care of her daily life? Brother Wu Yan, I'm willing to do this. Mei, who was still grabbing onto Wu Yan's clothes, shook her head gently. Livia took me in since I don't have a place to stay. That's why I'm willing to take care of Livia's daily life. Don't have a place to stay? Wu Yan squatted down and looked into Mei's eyes. His wine-red pupils were as deep as a red wine that had been brewed for thousands of years. It gave Mei a feeling that everything about her was seen through. At once, she turned her head away unnaturally. I think it's better if you don't get too involved in other people's lives. Livia, who was sitting on the sofa and enjoying her black tea, suddenly said, No matter who it is, everyone has their own territory that they can't let others intrude into. It's a small matter if you break into other people's home, but if you try to break into other people's hearts, then as Mei's sister, I won't just stand by and watch. Is that so? Hearing Livia's serious words, Wu Yan pursed his lips. Indeed, everyone has an unspeakable past, but I personally think that no matter how unsightly the past is, without it, you won't be who you are now. Turning his head, Wu Yan looked at Mei, who had her head lowered and looked a little depressed. He seemed to be talking to himself. A person can choose to hide their past, can choose to forget their past, can even choose to curse their past. However, they can't choose to run away from their past. If they do, it will only make the person who has the present more painful. Hearing this, Livia opened her mouth but couldn't say anything. She fell silent. Meiyu's small hands tightly grabbed the hem of her apron. Her shockingly slender shoulders trembled a few times. After a long time, she raised her head. Brother Wu Yin. A pair of clear orange eyes filled with pleading imprinted into Wu Yan's vision. Meiyu squeezed out this sentence. If it was you, if your past was forced upon you by someone else, even your life was forced upon you by someone else, then what would you do? Meiyu. Livia put down the cup of black tea in her hand and looked at Meiyu in a daze. This was the first time Livia had a chance to face Meiyu's past. In the past, Livia had asked Meiyu to tell her about her past, but every time, Meiyu would only remain silent. Now, Meiyu actually revealed a bit of her past in front of this man. This surprised Livia, but at the same time, she also listened attentively. Forced upon your past and life. Wu Yin was startled at first, but then he laughed and gave such an answer. Whose life wasn't forced upon by someone else. Meiyu was stunned. Livia was also stunned. No one can choose their own parents, the family they were born into, and the way they look in the future. This is what we call fate. Looking at Meiyu, who is staring at him in a daze, Wu Yin reached out and patted her head. However, in this world, some people's fates can't be controlled by themselves, and some can be controlled by themselves. No matter if it's life or the past, even if you deny it, it will still happen. Perhaps this is the fate that can't be controlled. But we can't let the fates we control slip away. We can't let them become the past. We can't control them. Wu Yin revealed a fearless smile. People's present and future are the so-called destinies that can be controlled. In front of these undetermined factors, how to make them become factors that can be controlled and make them move according to one's will is what we have to do. At that time, even if life is forced upon you, you can live meaningfully. Even if the past is painful, it can become a simple memory. I just want to ask Meiyu. Wu Yin looked straight into Meiyu's eyes. Do you want to control your own fate? Chapter 1463. Control. My own fate. Meiyu's orange pupils rippled, and she couldn't hide her wavering at all. At the same time, even her expression became timid. Can I? Are you that unconfident in your own future? Wu Yin said softly. Aren't you a magical girl now? You can fight on your own. You can decide to recycle your cards and become a Meiyu now. Did you see Eiderfeld? Meiyu's heart tightened. The ripples in her eyes grew bigger. That's right. Becoming a magical girl. Helping Livia recycle her cards. Fighting the Einer jars. Wasn't that her own decision? Then, deciding her own future. Breaking free from her past and becoming a real Meiyu. Eiderfeld shouldn't be a problem. Right? Brother Wu Yin. At this moment, Meiyu's eyes and face carried a bit of hesitation and a bit of hope. Can I really do that? Don't overthink it. The hand that was rubbing Meiyu's head slowly moved down to her cheeks. Wu Yin started caressing her delicate skin. You're no longer alone. You have someone you can rely on. Rely on. Mio met Wu Yan's gaze. Looking at Wu Yan's mesmerizing smile, she blurted out without any hesitation. Does that include Wu Yan? Wu Yan didn't expect this, and he helplessly laughed. If you don't mind having me as your enemy. And Meiyu closed her eyes, and she nodded with a faint smile. She leaned her face against Wu Yan's hand like she's snuggling up to him. Ahem. Livia coughed dryly and spoke with a sour tone. Meiyu, you can rely on me too. Shouldn't you take a look at my side too? Meiyu seemed to wake up. She moved away from Wu Yan's hand with a red face. Wu Yan was amused. Bang! All of a sudden, the door of the hall was opened with a loud noise. Livia, outside the door, Rin in Osaka charged in at a ferocious speed, not even bothering to look. I heard that man attacked you. Is that true? While saying that, Rin Inbin didn't seem to have any intention of stopping as he charged towards Livia like a hot knife through butter. Unfortunately, Rin in Osaka was destined to never reach Livia. Because Wu Yin was crouching on the ground, he was in the direction Rin in Osaka was rushing towards. Bang! Wu Yin didn't even have time to react before he turned around due to the loud noise. Then a soft object slammed into his body. PFFF. Wu Yin almost choked on his own breath. His body was entangled with the soft object, and he became a rolling gourd. With a roll, he smashed into the wall at the side, and his head hit the wall. Ouch! Wu Yin couldn't help but feel dizzy. It was as if he saw countless stars. He reached out his hand dizzily. Not for anything else, but because that soft object just happened to press down on his body. Wu Yin just wanted to push it away. But when he reached out, an even softer object fell into Wu Yan's hand. Then, such a cry of surprise rang out. Wu Yin sensed something amiss, and he subconsciously clenched his fists. He rubbed the soft object. Woo! After the scream, the sound this time was an extremely charming moan. Wu Yin was very familiar with this sound. He knew when it would sound. He froze on the spot and thought of a possibility. Could it be? With a stiff expression, Wu Yin slowly opened his eyes. He fearfully took in the scene in front of him. Then Wu Yin saw. He saw a pair of slender and tender thighs wrapped in black high-rise pantyhose appear in front of him in a bifurcated manner, which was 10 centimeters away from him. Since her thighs are in front of Wu Yan's eyes, naturally, the delicate buttocks that are also wrapped in black high leggings are also in front of his face. Wu Yan's hand just happened to pinch one of the seductive buttocks in front of him. Wu Yan even saw the looming loveliness hidden in the black high leggings. Wu Yin was dumbfounded. He opened his mouth as if in a dream. Black lace. Who allowed you to say that? An extremely embarrassed and furious scream rang out in the hall. The soft object lying on Wu Yan's body lost its weight and left Wu Yan's body. Wu Yan didn't react until now. He raised his head and looked at the hall. Several people stood there with different expressions on their faces. Meiyu's cheeks were flushed. She covered her mouth with one hand, and her eyes were full of shock. Livia sighed and covered her head with one hand. She looked like she had a headache. As for Rin Osaka, her face is as red as a tomato. She covered her, but with her hands, as she glared at Wu Yin, who is lying on the ground. It's as if she has a grudge against him, and she wants to tear him apart. At this point, if Wu Yin still can't figure out who that pair of thighs and buttocks wrapped in black thighs belongs to, he would have lived his life in vain. You. Rin's body trembled as she lowered her head. Her hair, which was tied into 2 ponytails, wriggled like the tentacles of an octopus. Last time, you already touched my breasts. This time, you even touched but Wu Yin looked at Rin Enbin, who seemed to be surrounded by black mist. A drop of cold sweat rolled down his forehead. He was speechless for a long time. In the end, thousands of words were condensed into one sentence. Quite soft, this sentence successfully ignited all the emotions in Rin Osaka's heart. Ha! Ha ha ha! Ha ha! With a chilling laugh, the black smoke rising from Rin Enbin's body became even denser, like an evil spirit, incomparably sinister. Meiyu had already retreated to the wall with a frightened expression. Even Livia was afraid of Rin Enbin for the first time in her life. She looked at Rin Enbin with a frightened expression. Her mouth opened and closed, but she didn't dare to say a word. Wu Yin, who was still sitting on the ground, forced a laugh when he saw this scene with his forehead full of sweat. Rin. Miss Rin, calm down. Look at the black mist on your body. It's almost as strong as the saber from last night. It's not good for your body. Not good for my body. Rin Enbin sneered. His green eyes started to turn misty. Since you've already ruined my body, I might as well destroy it. Ruin? Wu Yin was speechless. Is it that serious? Stop. It's useless to say anything more. Rin Enbin yelled with tears in his eyes. Today, I will take you down with me. A few gems appeared in Rin Enbin's hand. And magic? Livia and Mio cried out in surprise. Calm down. Miss Rin, Wu Yin shouted. Don't use magic here. You'll die. Didn't I tell you? Rin Enbin shouted. What's the point of saying so much? Rin Enbin raised the gems in her hand and stepped forward. She wanted to use her most prized gem magic to blast Wu Yin to smithereens. Today, however, was destined to be an unlucky day for Rin. Rin Osaka's subconscious step landed on Mei Yu's tray that had fallen to the ground. Therefore, before Rin Enbin could take out the gemstone, her feet slipped. Rin Enbin let out a cry of surprise as he leaped into the air and charged forward. Who else could it be but Wu Yin, who was sitting on the ground in front of Ryu Enbin? Under the dumbfounded gazes of Livia and Mio, Rin Tasaka pounced on Wu Yin. His head shot forward, and with impeccable accuracy, his lips landed on Wu Yan's bloody maw. Wu Yin and Rin Enbin widened their eyes in disbelief when they felt her soft touch on them. Time seemed to have stopped at this very moment. After a long time, a mournful wail resounded through the sky from the mansion. Chapter 1464. Sob, 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 sob. Rin Enbin sat on the sofa with his hands covering his face. He lowered his head, and sobbing sounds came from between his fingers, echoing in the living room. Sigh. At the side, Livia faintly sighed. Her face was filled with annoyance. Seriously, when are you going to stop crying? Sob, 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 sob. Normally, if Livia spoke like this, Rin Tozaka would have already rebutted her. But today, Rin Tozaka didn't pick a fight with Livia. She even revealed a weak side that Livia had never seen before. She was like a pitiful girl who had been bullied as she covered her face and cried. Sigh. Livia didn't want to pick a fight with Rin anymore. She turned around and looked at Wu Yin with resentment. Aren't you going to think of a way to solve the mess you created? What? What do you mean by I created the mess? Wu Yin cried out in agony. No matter how you look at it, it's an act of force. I'm a victim too, aren't I? Wu Yin and I-san. Mei Yu picked up the tray and said expressionlessly, this is an act of evasion. Wu Yin was speechless. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Then tell me, what should I do? If you're a man, then of course you have to take responsibility for me. Livia's eyes rolled as she suddenly suggested. How about I give you Rin Tozaka, and you use your rank card to exchange for her? Then, you can do whatever you want with her. How about that? Boom! Just as she finished speaking, a foot kicked Livia's face, sending her flying. She landed on the ground, not far away. I knew you'd say something like that. Rin Hasaka, whose face was devoid of tears, pointed at Livia and shouted angrily. Since you want the rank card so badly, then use yourself to exchange for it. After all, men like you who are full of fat, don't they? You actually dare to kick my face. Lying on the ground, Livia grabbed onto the carpet and clawed a few holes in it. Immediately after, she leaped up. One side of her swollen face was filled with hatred. I'm full of fat. At least I'm more attractive than a skinny monkey like you who doesn't have a single piece of meat on your body. Everyone in Fuyuki City knows I'm more attractive than you, right? You're just a nouveau riche. Attractive? I almost froze because of this lame joke. Not only did he touch my breasts, but he also touched my butt. I had already offered up the most important parts of my body. Even my first kiss had been taken away by him. In the end, he didn't want to take responsibility after taking advantage of me. You call that attractive? Wah! Rin Tozaka's face turned red. He turned around and glared at Wu Yan. He grabbed Wu Yan's collar. How dare you not take responsibility? Wrong. Wu Yan broke out in cold sweat, and tears streamed down his cheeks. You're focusing on the wrong thing. Oh, hi! Livia immediately covered her mouth with one hand and let out a three-part queen's laughter. Did you hear that? I don't want to take responsibility for you. You. Rin Tozaka's veins popped out on his forehead. A dangerous smile appeared on his face. You really don't want to take responsibility for me? That's why I said you were focusing on the wrong thing. Shouldn't you be complaining about that? Wu Yin was sweating profusely. Besides, if you want me to take responsibility, how should I take responsibility? Do you even need to ask? It wasn't Rin Tozaka who said that. It was Livia. Of course it's to marry this monkey that no one wants. Marry. Mayo's pretty face was flushed red, and her eyes were wide open. Marry her. Wu Yin and Rin Tozaka were stunned. They looked at each other and glared at each other. Then, One of them put on a fake smile, while the other blushed, and hurriedly let go of the collar in her hand and retreated. Mary, to everyone's surprise, Rin Tozuka's pretty face turned red as she bit her finger shyly. Isn't that a little too fast? How can it be fast? Livia spoke as if she was trying to comfort him. However, but the next sentence was all that was needed. As long as your future husband gives me his rank card, I'll take care of everything for your wedding. The documents will be ready within an hour. I guarantee that you'll be able to hold a grand wedding tomorrow, if that's the case. I'm not far from death. Wu Yin had already sweated out all the sweat he had accumulated throughout the year. He shook his head with lingering fear. Hinajiku and Mikoto will chop me up raw before electrocuting me into charcoal. In any case, leave this matter to me, Livia said in an unquestionable tone as she puffed up her ample bosom. I will definitely take care of everything for you. This damn nouveau riche. Looking at Livia's arrogant smile, Rin Hasaka clenched his fists and wanted to punch her swollen face again. My life is decided just like that? Wu Yin didn't even have the energy to complain anymore. Even my name was found out from Mei Yu. Isn't it good? Mei Yu said coldly. Sister Ling is also quite charming, isn't she? Is that so? Wu Yin turned his head away angrily. Compared to that, I'm more interested in why you look so fierce, Mei Yu. It's nothing. Mei Yu turned her head away as well. She seemed to have remembered something and took out a card. Speaking of rank cards, I haven't returned this to you yet. Wu Yin, Lancer's rank card? Wu Yin looked at the picture of a nobleman and the words Lancer in Mei Yu's hand. He finally remembered why he came here. I'm here for the Lancer. As if he found an excuse, Wu Yin wanted to change the topic. He took the Lancer's rank card and took out the other 3 cards. The card with the picture of a soldier riding a chariot. The card with the picture of an assassin with a dagger and a skull mask. The card with the picture of a knight in heavy armor holding a knight's sword and performing a knight's salute. Saber. Lancer. Rider. Assassin. Wu Yin pointed the cards at Rin and Livia. Rin Inbin and Livia also stopped their quarrel and silently took out a card from each of their bodies. Archer with a bow and arrow, sage with a staff and a black robe. Archer, Rin Inosaka, said the rank card in his hand. Caster, Livia did the same. The 3 of them took out the cards in their hands and looked at each other. There's one more card. Wu Yin smirked. Berserker, I see. Rin Inosaka put away the Archer rank card. You're here for the Berserker, aren't you? We agreed to split the loot, after all. Wu Yin shrugged. Now, there's only one Berserker left. What should I do? Rin and Livia were silent as they looked at Wu Yin. Wu Yin and I-san. Mei Yu came to Wu Yan's side and looked at him with a complicated expression. Are you really going to fight us because of a rank card? Didn't I tell you not to think too much? Wu Yin rubbed Mei Yu's head and gave her a reassuring smile. Don't worry, even if things go that way, it won't be something you don't want to see, Mei Yu nodded, but the expression on her face was still not relieved. Since there's only one card left, we can only rely on our own abilities. Rin Inosaka said helplessly and unwillingly. The last Berserker. Whoever defeats him will get the card. Hey, Livia seemed like she wanted to object, but Rin Inbin stopped her with a single sentence. What else can we do? Give up the rank card? Or ask them to give up the rank card? Livia said to Wu Yin. Let's do that then. Wu Yin smiled. Tonight at midnight. See you there. Chapter 1465. Fuyuki City. On the streets, the number of pedestrians gradually began to decrease, and the number of vehicles coming and going also decreased sharply during this period of time. The street lamps flickered one after another, releasing soft light, illuminating the dark streets. The windows of every house also flashed with light, making the night scene of Fuyuki City look like stars dotting the earth. In Fuyuki City, Wu Yin is kneeling on one knee in the main hall of one of the most prominent houses in the city. His finger is burning with a golden magic flame. He is stroking his finger on the ground in a rhythmic pattern. He looked very serious. Beside Wu Yin, Chuju and Mikoto were holding their breaths and standing on both sides of him. Their dazzling eyes were staring straight at the ground. Although they didn't dare to breathe, they tried to control their movements as much as possible so that they wouldn't disturb Wu Yan. As Wu Yan's finger continued to slide, golden lines containing traces of magical fluctuations were drawn on the ground of the hall, forming a precise pattern. Taking a closer look, it was impressively an extremely complicated magic circle. Even among all the magic circles, it was the most complicated type of magic circle. To be precise, it should be called a large-scale ritual magic circle. However, this so-called ritual magic circle was only a magic circle, and everything needed for the ritual was not in place. In other words, no matter what kind of magic circle Wu Yan wanted to use this magic circle to cast, without some of the items and layout required for the ritual, the magic circle would only be half-baked, and it wouldn't be able to display its true power. Time gradually passed, and the atmosphere in the hall was always silent. Wu Yan had put all his attention on the magic circle in front of him, and he didn't even have time to care about the sweat on his face from time to time. This showed how focused he was. Every time the sweat fell, Chuju would silently take out a handkerchief and help Wu Yan wipe the sweat on his face so that he could concentrate on completing the complicated magic circle in front of him. As for Makoto, although she wanted to help, but to be honest, she didn't. Given her personality, she would only make things worse when it came to such meticulous work. So Makoto could only stand aside and stare. The only thing she could do was to try her best not to disturb Wu Yan. He didn't know how much time had passed. In the hall, a strange fluctuation began to take effect in the air. Those were the ripples of magic power emanating from the magic array. Along with this phenomenon, the golden magic array on the ground became increasingly precise and complex. As a result, the speed at which Wu Yan's finger was drawing the magic array slowed down. But it didn't matter. This was because the magic array had already taken shape. When Wu Yan's finger finished the final stroke of the painting, the intricate golden magic array on the ground suddenly released a dense mana radiance, illuminating the entire space. This phenomenon didn't last for a long time. After about 2 or 3 seconds, the dense light of mana fluctuated and suddenly dissipated. As for the intricate magic array drawn on the ground, it was moving at an extremely slow speed like a roulette. As it spun, it began to spin. Phew! Only now did Wu Yan let out a sigh of relief and stood up. Chuju took a handkerchief and carefully wiped the sweat off Wu Yan's face. "You've worked hard. Thanks." Wu Yan couldn't help but smile. He reached out and gently shook Hinajuku's hand that's wiping away his sweat with a handkerchief. This caused Hinajuku to blush. "Is it over?" Makoto also stepped forward and came to Wu Yan's side. Her brown eyes stared at the rotating magic array on the ground and praised. "It seems very powerful. It's just a dabbler. Without the ritual, even if the magic array is successfully activated, it can only rely on my own mana to maintain its effect. Once the mana is exhausted, the magic array will disintegrate. But one night is enough." Wu Yan reached out and held Makoto's hand. "All right, you two, enter the magic array." Chuju and Makoto looked at Wu Yan. They wanted to say something, but couldn't find the words. They lowered their heads and walked into the magic array and stood in the center. In an instant, the faintly rotating golden magic array on the ground trembled, and its rotation speed abruptly increased by a notch. Immediately, rays of golden light shot out from the magic array and wrapped around Chuju and Makoto's body. The golden light spun and danced around Chuju and Makoto's body. It was as if there was a hand controlling them. They moved back and forth on the two girls as if they were weaving clothes. The scene was extremely dazzling. At the same time, Wu Yan closed his eyes and knelt on one knee again. He pressed one hand on the edge of the magic array and channeled mana into it to support the operation of the magic array and the formation of the magic array. Within the golden arc of light, Hinajuku and Makoto's bodies were also slowly surrounded by golden light. As they circled around, they condensed into a shape. The shape of a costume. It was a white kimono with sleeves that reached the fingers. It was so wide that it could easily fit 4 to 5 hands. It was so wide that the hem hung down. Her lower body was a bright red long skirt that covered her ankles. When paired with the white kimono on her upper body, it was surprisingly harmonious. The front of the upper half was tied in a knot, which was unusually fluffy. When the whole combination was put together, people who saw it unconsciously felt a sense of relief. In place of their original clothes, the clothes that covered Hinajiku and Mikoto were none other than a Mikoto outfit. Of course, it's not an ordinary one. It's the ultimate defense formation formed in the form of a Miko costume. Moving church. Tonight, Wu Yan's group, along with Rin Enbin and Livia's group, will head to the location of the last rank card to retrieve it. On the surface, Wu Yan and Rin Enbin made an agreement that whoever defeats a berserker will get the last rank card. However, as for whether or not he could defeat a berserker, Wu Yan didn't dare to boast. Unlike Rin Enbin's group, Wu Yan was very clear about the situation. What kind of person is my opponent tonight? In terms of strength, a berserker is definitely not weaker than a saber from last night. If it wasn't for the saber's Excalibur, she probably wouldn't be a match for the berserker. Furthermore, the most troublesome part was not the berserker's strength, but the noble phantasm that the berserker possessed. The 12 trials. It wasn't a weapon, nor was it a defensive tool with an external appearance. Instead, the wielder himself was this precious artifact known as the 12 trials. It's a noble phantasm that represents immortality. A terrifying noble phantasm. There were 3 effects of the 12 trials. 1. Turn one's body into the most tenacious armor. It could nullify most of the powerful, ordinary attacks. No matter if it was a physical attack, magic attack, or even damage from a relic, if it was not strong enough, it would not be able to hurt the user of the 12 trials. Second, allows the user to regenerate after death. Not only once, it could be regenerated 11 times. Including the user's life, if the user isn't killed 12 times, it won't be completely destroyed. If the user has a strong magical power, it can even recover the number of times it's regenerated. Third, no matter how powerful the method is, once the killed user revives, the method will be nullified. If the method is used again, even the most basic damage will not be dealt to the user. What a noble phantasm! In a situation like this where their levels are restricted, Wu Yan has to think of a way to protect the girl. The mobile church with the title of Ultimate Defense Barrier was no doubt the most suitable choice. But why is it a Miko costume? Chuju and Mikoto were confused. Chapter 1466. This is a high-end building in Fuyuki City. If one could come to the rooftop of this building, then no matter who it was, as long as they had good eyesight, they would be able to see more than half of the scenery of Fuyuki City. They would feel that they would be closer to the sky. The windows made of glass reflected the moonlight from the full moon in the night sky, like pearls flashing with a luster that made people's eyes unconsciously brighten. It was as if the windows themselves could emit light, bringing a faint light that was neither warm nor cold. The entire building is shrouded in a layer of blue light. It's very illusory. On the rooftop of this building, Rin Enbin, Livia, Ilya, Miyu, and the others who had changed in a magical girl outfit stood in the center. They formed a circle under the night breeze and quietly waited for midnight to arrive. In addition to waiting for midnight, they were also waiting for the arrival of another group of people so slow. Rin Tozaka glanced at the watch on his wrist. He lifted his chin and looked at the entrance of the rooftop. There's still 5 minutes left. Why aren't they here yet? What's wrong? Livia looked at Rin in Osaka with a faint smile. Do you care about that man named Wu Yan? Huh? Rin in Osaka exclaimed in shock before he sighed. If there's something wrong with your head, I suggest you go see a doctor. Don't go crazy. You'll drag us down. Oh, Livia raised an eyebrow. The smile on her face turned into a fake one. As expected of a sharp-tongued monkey. Rin Enbin tilted his head. His smile turned sinister. Do you want to die? Livia spread out her hands helplessly. Don't be like this. If I die, who will help you guys with your wedding? The two girls stared at each other. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent. Seriously, Ruby and Iria's hands said in disdain. They're still so stubborn. There's only one last card left, and they're still provoking each other before the war. I was right to leave them back then. Their teamwork is quite good. Sapphire, who was in Mayu's hand, spoke up. Sister, there's only one card left. Stop mocking Lord Ling and Lord Livia. That's true. Sister Ling and Sister Livia are still very reliable at critical moments. Ilya blinked her big watery eyes and voiced her doubts. But what's with the wedding? Wedding? Mayu seemed to be a little puzzled. With Brother Wu Yin, What's wrong? Nothing. After a short conversation, everyone seemed to have relaxed a lot. Although none of them said anything, they knew that this was the last enemy they were about to face. More or less, he would still feel uneasy. Perhaps they were trying to dispel the uneasiness before the battle by having such a conversation. 3 more minutes. This time, it was Livia's turn to complain. No matter what, it's indeed too late. Well, isn't there a saying? Ruby waved her limbs in a mocking manner. The good show is always at the end. That means, compared to them, we're just the appetizers, right? Rin Enbin's face was filled with displeasure. Although I know what's going on, it's still annoying. Once the time is up, let's go in ourselves. Livia closed the pocket watch in her hand. There's no reason for us to wait for people who are late, let alone our competitors. We don't mean to be late. As though in response to Livia's words, such a voice resounded across the rooftop of the skyscraper without any warning, entering the ears of the group of young ladies. A gentle breeze blew from afar, as if it was caressing everyone present. It whistled past every corner. Rin Enbin, Livia, Ilya, and Mayu couldn't help but close their eyes. When the breeze stopped and the young ladies opened their eyes, there were already 3 more people at the scene. Excuse me. As usual, Wu Yin was wearing a black shirt and pants with a black jacket. He brought along Chuju and Mikoto, who were wearing a witch outfit. He had a gentle smile on his face as he looked at Rin, Enbin, and the others. I'm slightly delayed by something, but I'm not late, right? It's also rude to make a lady wait. Livia crossed her arms. If it's possible, I hope you can come earlier. My apologies. Wu Yin smiled without any sincerity. There won't be a next time anyway. After tonight, Big Brother, Wu Yin and I-San. Ilya and Mayu greeted Wu Yin. However, his gaze was fixed on Chuju and Mikoto. His gaze turned strange when he saw their witch outfits. Why are you wearing a witch outfit? Rin Enbin's mouth twitched. Don't tell me it's your hobby? Who had that kind of hobby? Mikoto clenched her fists as she glared at Wu Yin with an annoyed look. I also want to know why you're wearing a witch outfit. It's quite convenient in battle. You won't have to restrain yourself. Chuju looked like she didn't know what to say. But there should be a lot of convenient outfits, right? Well, Wu Yin turned his head away awkwardly. Unknowingly, whether it's a hobby or for convenience in battle. Let's end the conversation here. Livia opened her pocket watch again. There's 1 minute left. Hearing this, everyone began to concentrate, and their expressions turned serious. There's something I have to say first. Wu Yin spoke. The enemy we're about to face is very strong, very strong. Everyone was stunned and looked at Wu Yin in confusion. The enemy is very strong? Everyone should have been mentally prepared for this, right? Is there a need to emphasize it? I know you guys have a lot of questions, but I'm going to say this first. Wu Yin said this with an unbelievably calm demeanor. Once you realize that you're not strong enough, retreat immediately. That's not a piece of advice. Wu Yin swept his sharp gaze over everyone present. This is a warning. Wu Yin didn't say anything else after that. He didn't give them any time to react. He counted down the minutes and seconds in his mind, and he started channeling his mana into the mirror world. Wu Yin's strange words made Rin Enbin, Livia, Ilya, and Mio confused. However, they knew that now wasn't the time to ask. Ruby, Sapphire, Ilya, and Mio ordered at the same time. Connect. Then, on the rooftop of the building, a dazzling rainbow light illuminated the dark night. The mirror world was a strange reflection world created by the distortion of the mana of the heroic spirits materialized by the class cards. Therefore, every time a materialized heroic spirit was defeated, the distortion of the mirror world would decrease, and the area of the mirror world would decrease as well. Now, except for the last class card, the other 6 class cards had been defeated. The mirror world was only left with a pitifully small area. It was no longer as vast as the entire Fuyuki city. Because of this, the mirror realm, where the last grade card resided, was only left with an area equivalent to the size of this building. The sky was still covered by the reflection mirror. It rippled like the surface of a lake and gave off an illusory feeling. The interior of the building was dark, and the edges of the building were occupied by crystal-like substances. Entering this place was like entering a crystal mine. At least, it looked pretty good. In the dazzling rainbow light, a group of people appeared on the rooftop of the building in the mirror world. As soon as they appeared, Wu Yin, who stood in front of everyone, felt like his heart was being squeezed by a hand. His pupils shrunk, and he shouted, "Spread out!" Boom! Before he could finish his sentence, the ground they were standing on shook violently and burst open. At the same time, a huge shadow rushed into the sky. Chapter 1467. Bam! In the center of the rooftop of the building, the ground under the feet of the group of people who entered the mirror realm suddenly exploded without warning. A violent impact exploded, bringing along with it a loud bang and flying gravel that hit the group mercilessly. Amidst the screams, the gravel that had lethality comparable to bullets hit the group of people one after another. With a strong impact, the 7 people, 1 man and 6 women, who were originally standing together, were sent flying and landed in all directions of the rooftop. Convert all magic power into physical defense. Physical defense on. Ilya and Mayu were also sent flying by the frenzied impact and gravel, crashing onto the ground. The 2 of them turned pale and felt dizzy. Fortunately, Ruby and Sapphire had activated the physical defense function in the first place, allowing Ilya and Mayu to only receive a layer of impact. The damage caused by the gravel and the impact was completely blocked. Chuju and Makoto were also in the same situation. Caught off guard, both of them were hit by the impact and gravel brought by the explosion of the ground. Their figures were sent flying backward in an extremely embarrassing manner. However, they managed to adjust their bodies in midair in time and landed on the ground instead of crashing directly like Ilya and Mayu. The mobile church on the 2 girls emitted a strange wave that outsiders could not capture, perfectly blocking the impact and the impact of the gravel. Even so, Chuju and Makoto's pretty faces still looked a little pale. The only one who was not hit by the impact and the gravel was Wu Yin, who reacted in time and reminded everyone to teleport to the edge of the rooftop to avoid the attack. In his arms, Rin Inosaka and Luvia were still in shock. Unlike Chuju, Makoto, Ilya, and Mayu, who had the magic attire and mobile church to defend, these 2 were real mortals. If Wu Yin had not hugged them in time and moved them away, the 2 of them would have suffered quite a lot of damage. The 7 of them looked at the center of the rooftop at the same time, where a hole had been blasted open. Their expressions were equally ugly. In the hollow, a huge black shadow suddenly flashed and soared into the sky. It leaped into the sky, and with a heave, it landed heavily on the ground. Boom! With a muffled sound, dust flew in all directions, covering the huge black figure. However, everyone could still see it clearly. In the smoke and dust, the huge shadow straightened its body, its eyes flashing with blood-red light. It was a tall giant. He was at least 2 meters tall and was completely naked. Only a tattered bib was wrapped around his waist, covering the only part of his body that could not be exposed. The rest of his body was exposed to the air. His messy black hair was plastered to the back of his head, without even the slightest bit of adornment. It was extremely dazzling, and it fit the image of a giant. The muscles on its body bulged, shining with a steel-like luster. Its entire body was filled with power. Roar! The giant raised its head and stretched its body, which was full of explosive power, directly dispersed the smoke and dust around it. Such a small movement brought about a strong gust of wind. Together with the giant's furious roar, it turned into a wave of wind that swept across the rooftop. Berserker, Berserker, level 75, that's... Chuju's expression changed. Berserker, Berserker, he's the one who smashed the ground and rushed out of the building, right? Makoto gritted her teeth. A strength-type opponent? Should I say, as expected of a Berserker heroic spirit? What? Rin Inbin and Luvia, who were lying in Wu Yan's arms, were also shaken. Smashed the ground? Rushed out? I don't have time for you guys to express your thoughts. Wu Yan glared at the Berserker and barked in a low voice. The opponent is coming. Roar! The Berserker let out a ferocious roar as if he was trying to prove his rank, like a giant who had fallen into madness. It stomped on the ground and rushed out. In front of it, Elia and Mio wobbled and stood up from the ground. Elia, Mio, Rin Inbin and Luvia exclaimed. This startled Ilya and Mayu. The two magical girls looked up and saw a Berserker charging towards them like a rampaging chariot, bringing with it a piercing sound as it pierced through the air. Sapphire. Mayu, who was the first to react, shouted, "Activate all physical defense." That won't do. Mayu-sama. That was all Sapphire could say before the Berserker charged towards them and slammed into the two magical girls. Bam! With a muffled collision sound, the Berserker used the most violent method. It used its steel-like body to crash into the two slender magical girls. Both Ilya and Mayu groaned in pain. Their small bodies were sent flying with a sharp sound and heavily smashed into a wall. Their small faces were filled with pain. Physical defense. Ruby and Sapphire's frightened voice sounded. It's broken. Roar. The roar of the Berserker echoed on the rooftop together with the sound of the two wands. Then, the heavy stomping sound echoed again. The Berserker transformed into a charging chariot and charged towards Ilya and Mayu against the air pressure. Shock appeared on the faces of Ilya and Mayu. His physical defense had been completely destroyed by the Berserker's attack. The magic barrier could only defend against magic attacks. It could not absorb any physical damage at all. In other words, if the Berserker's attack was effective, the two girls would lose their lives on the spot with their weak bodies. They would die. Clearly aware of this point, the two 10-year-old girls finally could not hide their fear. Their beautiful faces were deathly pale, and their delicate bodies began to tremble. Elia, Mio. As Rin Inbin and Luvia screamed in fear, the Berserker charged at the two girls like a hot knife through butter. Beep, beep, beep. At this critical moment, a sharp electronic sound suddenly resounded through the entire rooftop, as if it was summoning something, incessantly ringing in everyone's ears. What responded to the sharp electronic sound was an extremely dazzling bluish-white light. You're a legendary hero? How dare you bully little girls? Following the loud shout, a thick bolt of lightning struck down from the sky, tearing the space apart and landing on the Berserker. Don't you feel ashamed? Roar! Within the thick lightning bolt, the Berserker let out an earth-shattering howl of pain. Its huge body began to emit light smoke and a burnt smell. Huh! Without waiting for the thick lightning to disperse, a cold shout mixed with the beep, beep, beep sound rang out. Immediately, a pink stream of light flashed across the rooftop and collided with the Berserker who was in the middle of the lightning. Poochie, blood splattered, accompanied by a tearing sound. A crystal sword directly pierced through the lightning surrounding the Berserker and ruthlessly pierced its heart. Under the impact of the pink flowing light, the huge body of the Berserker rushed out of the blue and white lightning. At this moment, the bluish-white lightning bolt is still in effect. Chuju's lightspeed dash actually knocked the Berserker out of the lightning bolt. Just like how one would not be burned by a flame at extreme speed, Hinajiku's speed was unimaginable. She passed through Makoto's lightning and pierced through the Berserker's heart with a single strike. Boom! Roar! The Berserker only let out a heart-wrenching cry when it was hit by the crystal sword and crashed into the wall. Chapter 1468. The two of you. With a flash, Wu Yin arrived beside Ilya and Meiyu. He carried out the two little girls who were knocked into the wall by the berserker. Are you all right? Be big, brother Wu Yin. Meiyu shook her head with lingering fear. I am fine. After saying that, Meiyu broke free from Wu Yan's embrace and stood up by herself. Although the berserker's charge possessed boundless might, not only did it instantly break through the physical defense set up by the wand, it even caused some damage to Meiyu. But with the wand's ability to accelerate healing, Meiyu's injuries have already healed. It was the same for Ilya. She no longer had any injuries on her body. But, unlike Meiyu, Ilya was still in Wu Yan's embrace. Her pretty face was terrifyingly pale. Her hands were tightly grabbing onto Wu Yan's clothes as if she was grabbing onto a life-saving straw. The usual cheerful and naive look in her ruby-like eyes had completely disappeared. What remained was only a single emotion: fear, an unprecedented fear that was more intense than ever before. It was also the fear of death. Even after transforming into a magical girl, Ilya was still only a 10-year-old child. Unlike Meiyu, who possessed an unspeakable and extraordinary past, how could Ilya not be afraid when facing death? Perhaps it was only at this moment that Ilya truly began to understand how dangerous it was to fight against a heroic spirit. Ilya, seeing the terrified Ilya, Kirin felt a chill down his spine. Meiyu grew silent. Hugging Ilya's petite body, Wu Yin could feel Ilya's shivering body and the cold sensation coming from her skin. Looking at Ilya's pale face, he couldn't help but feel heartache. Don't worry, Ilya. Tightening his grip on Ilya's body, Wu Yin entrusted her to Meiyu. Don't be afraid. Stroking Ilya's pale face, Wu Yin smiled gently. I won't let anything happen to you. Be big, brother. Ilya's lips trembled. She grabbed Wu Yan's hand tightly. You're not alone. Wu Yin also grabbed Ilya's hand and looked straight into her fearful eyes. Me, Meiyu, and the other sisters are all here, but Ilya was still somewhat afraid. But don't worry. Wu Yin gave Ilya a reassuring look. I'll end this quickly, so don't be scared, okay? Big brother. Seeing Wu Yan's gentle smile, Ilya's trembling heart involuntarily calmed down. Her pretty face also slowly recovered its rosy color. Seeing this, Miyuki, who was hugging Ilya, heaved a sigh of relief. Meiyu, after touching Ilya's pretty face, Wu Yin turned his head and looked at Meiyu. Retreat to Rin to Sokka and Luvia. I'll have to trouble you to take care of Ilya. Then, hesitation appeared in Meiyu's eyes. What about the enemy? The enemy is already beyond your ability. Wu Yin narrowed his eyes. So leave it to us. Roar. However, the berserker's roar was even louder than before, as if it was mocking Wu Yan's declaration. It entered everyone's ears. Boom, boom. Then, heavy muffled sounds rang continuously. Accompanied by the muffled sounds, two figures shot out like arrows. Amidst the shrill, sonic boom, they smashed into the wall beside Wu Yin, Meiyu, and Ilya. The sudden turn of events startled the three magicians, as well as the two magicians who were watching the battle from afar. They hurriedly shifted their gazes to the front. Roar! They saw the berserker whose body was pierced through by Chuju's sword and whose body was also covered with scorched black marks staggered as he stood there. He raised his head and roared. He received such a fatal injury. However, the berserker didn't fall. Instead, his body emitted a fiery red luster. Like a soldering iron thrown into a fire, every muscle on his body flickered with a red light. Under this red light, the berserker's body that was covered with scorched black marks jumped and returned to its original state. The iron swords that were pierced through his body also fell to the ground. Then, including the fatal wound on his heart, all the wounds healed. Roar! When the fiery red luster dissipated, the berserker returned to his peak state. Impossible! Rin Inbin and Luvia's expression changed drastically. How is this possible? Ilya, and Mei, you were also shocked. As expected, Wu Yan's expression darkened. The regeneration effect of the 12 trials has been triggered. No, it wasn't just the regeneration effect of the 12 trials that was triggered. The Berserker was also resistant to the attack that had just killed him because of another ability of the 12 trials. Next, slashes, stabs, and attacks aimed at the Berserker's heart. All attacks that can pierce through the Berserker's heart will also be immune. This is the terrifying part of the 12 trials. With the 12 trials as support, the Berserker won't receive any damage from the same attacks. It's a classic type of Berserker that gets stronger the more he fights. Of course, the Berserker's regeneration rate will also decrease by 1. There are pros and cons. There are still 11 more chances left. He had to kill the Berserker 11 more times before the Berserker would truly die. This is really, even though he knew this beforehand, Wu Yan was still helpless in this situation. This is troublesome. It is indeed troublesome. The voice on the wall responded to Wu Yan's words. Even if I knew it was going to be like this, I still couldn't react in time and got hit. Hinajika brushed away the rubble around her body and looked at her robe. She couldn't help but say, "But this moving church is really sturdy. I didn't receive any damage after being hit by such an enemy. You got hit by 1 punch, but I got hit by 3 punches." Mikoto, who was standing beside Chuju, also pushed away the gravel around her and complained, "It's going to be fast. Even the efficiency of dodging attacks has increased." Fortunately, Yin had the foresight to cast the moving church on us. Otherwise, let alone 3 punches, 1 punch would have taken our lives. There's a limit to that. When a moving church runs out of mana and gets hit, we'll be in for a lot of trouble. Wu Yin stood up and took a step forward. The moving church will reduce the amount of magic power it stores according to the strength of the attack it withstands. The stronger the opponent's attack, the more magic power the moving church will consume. If you continue to be smashed like this, the moving church will collapse sooner or later. There's a limit to mana storage? Chuju and Mikoto were speechless. Isn't this the same as the monster's 12 trials? That's right. Wu Yin clenched his fist as he stared at the Berserker. Either we exhaust the Berserker's 12 trials regeneration count, or we exhaust the magic power stored in the moving church. Whichever side is exhausted first loses. That's easy to understand, Mikoto said with a smile on her face. Blue and white electric current danced on her red and white robe. What'll happen? No matter what. Chuju grabbed White Cherry. Her wide sleeves fluttered along with her movements. There's only one thing we need to do. This war of attrition. Wu Yin took a deep breath. Mana surged from his body. Let's see how it goes. Roar. The Berserker roared out loud. His huge body tightened as he clenched his fists. Like a mountain, he rushed towards the 3 people in front of him and blew the horn for the real battle. Looking at the Berserker charging towards them, Wu Yin, Chuju, and Mikoto looked at each other and smiled. All right, let's go. Chapter 1469. Roar. On the rooftop under the solitary light mirror, the unique roar of the Berserker continued to reverberate in the air. So noisy. Mikoto, who was covered in electric sparks, spread out her slender hand. The rooftop of the skyscraper was like a large generator. Whether it was the ground or the walls, all of them flashed with blue and white electric current. With a turn, the electric current crawled up the huge body of the Berserker like a poisonous snake. Roar. Unfortunately for the Berserker's resistance to Mikoto's electric current was already built up through the 12 trials. With a swing of his fist, the electric current that crawled up his body was dispersed. At the same time, Chuju dashed forward like a flash of light and arrived below the Berserker. Her body was not even half the size of the Berserker, but she was able to unleash a powerful force. Amidst a clear whistle, White Cherry sliced through the air. The sharp blade with a cold luster was thrust out mercilessly and stabbed into the Berserker's stomach. Clang! Kieran's sword, which was powerful enough to pierce through the Berserker's heart, landed on the Berserker's abdomen. This time around, the sound of metal clashing against metal was heard. Chuju felt like her sword had pierced through the city walls. The recoil made her hand go numb, and she almost lost her grip on White Cherry. Roar! Taking advantage of this opportunity, the berserker's eyes glowed red. He clenched his fist, and the strength behind it was enough to make Chuju's face change. With a sonic boom, the fist came crashing down on Chuju's delicate body. At this moment, purple magic circles appeared around the berserker's body and surrounded him. Soon after, chains that flickered with purple light emerged from the magic arrays amidst the light, clanging sounds of metal clashing against metal. With a jump, the chains shot toward the berserker and wrapped around his fist and body that was coming towards Chuju. Roar! The berserker's huge body stopped abruptly as it was tightly bound by the chain that was coming at it. At once, it began to struggle madly, causing a series of intense sounds of chains rubbing against each other. Clang, 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 clang. While the berserker was struggling with the chains on his body, Mikoto took the opportunity. Hinagiku brandished her White Cherry, and within a short span of second, she unleashed a flurry of pink sword slashes that landed on the berserker, but none of them dealt any damage. Clang, 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 clang. At the same time, pitch-black iron sand swords rained down from the sky. Like lightning, they landed on the berserker's body. But just like Chuju's attack, the swords were sent flying as if they hit a thick steel wall. Damn it! Hinagiku jumped back and retreated to the side of Wu Yin, who was controlling the berserker with a lock, and Mikoto, who was chasing after him with the iron sand sword. Isn't this a bit too hard? Doesn't this mean my attacks are useless against him? Me too. Mikoto's tea-colored pupils stared at the berserker as she spoke with anger and helplessness. Electric shock, iron sand. We've tried everything we can, but it's immune to all of them. It has no effect on that monster at all. Yin, Hinagiku asked without turning her head as she stretched her hand that was holding White Cherry's hand. You always have a lot of tricks up your sleeve. Is there really no other way? That's impossible. It's hard to say. Wu Yin had a bitter expression as he channeled mana into the lock. He's also trying to wrestle with a berserker who's struggling to break free from the lock. That guy has the 12 trials. The first effect of this noble phantasm is that it can defend against attacks that don't reach a certain level. As for the tactics I can use, they're useless if they're not strong. If I use the strong ones in this small space, we'll be dragged into it. So I can't use tactics that are purely offensive. Even if other tactics are effective, they can only trap him. Other than tactics, I'm also an expert in close combat and Esper abilities. But as you can see, the berserker is immune to Esper abilities. Stabbing, slashing, and other types of attacks are useless against him. My noble phantasms are useless against him. The only thing left is Neon Din no Shana. I can only use fire to attack the berserker, but that won't be enough to deal any damage to him. Only Meteor Shower is left, but I'm not sure if it'll work. Wu Yan's expression was troubled. As for close combat, I admit that the primogenitor's body is strong, but I'm not a match for that monster. I'll only get punched if I go. What about the familiars? Mikoto finally gave up on attacking. She used all of her iron sand to form chains, and together with the chains of discipline, they bound the berserker who was howling and struggling. Even if you're worried about destroying the mirror world and can't release your familiars, you can still borrow their abilities, right? First of all, the Black Dragon's abilities can't be used. If we destroy this dimension, we're done for. Wu Yin pondered as he manipulated the chains. Natsuki's ability is mainly spatial manipulation, so the damage she can do is limited. The Guardian's abilities are similar to Chuju's. Stabbing and slashing won't work, and Cannon has no offensive abilities. Only Nagisa, Agrora's Ice, and White Dragon's Fire are useful. Of course, Wu Yin has more tricks up his sleeves. The 3 red Jade modes can also be used against Berserker. Other than that, he has a few other trump cards that Wu Yin hasn't had the chance to use yet. Wu Yin had an idea. Chuju, Mikoto. Wu Yin cut off the supply of mana to the discipline lock, and he jumped out of the fray. Buy me some time. Before Chuju and Mikoto could react, Wu Yin had already left. Roar. At the same time, the commandment lock that trapped the berserker had lost the supply of mana from Wu Yin and had also lost its power. When the berserker roared, his body stretched out and exploded. Don't wait until you're out of the battle to say that. Upon seeing this, the two girls cried out at the same time. However, they still relied on the impregnable defense of the moving church on their bodies to face the berserker that was charging towards them. On the other side, Wu Yin leaped and arrived beside Rin Inbin, Luvia, Ilya, and Mio. If we really can't do it, then retreat. Rin Inosaka gritted his teeth and said, not only can he defend against a certain degree of attack, he also has regeneration ability and can resist our attacks. It's impossible to win against an enemy like that. The three of you are indeed very strong. This time, the enemy's strength is only on par with any one of you. In addition, the enemy doesn't have any rationality. If you didn't have that noble artifact, the three of you would definitely be able to win, Luvia advised in a serious tone. Unfortunately, his noble artifact effect is too scary. Wu Yin. Mio looked at Wu Yin. I also think we should retreat and discuss this again, big brother. Ilya didn't say anything, but her eyes showed that she wanted to leave as well. I know the enemy this time is too hard to deal with. Wu Yin stepped forward and stood in front of Rin Inbin and the others. But it's not like there's no way to solve this. After saying that, Wu Yin took out a card from his body. Chapter 1470. Rank card. Rin, Ruvia, Aria, and Mio flinched when they saw Wu Yin taking out a card at this critical juncture. What's wrong? Rin Inosaka frowned. Don't tell me you have a rank card that can deal with the Berserker's noble phantasm? No, Wu Yin answered without hesitation. At the very least, none of the rank cards I have are directly effective against a Berserker's noble relic. Huh? Luvia opened her mouth in shock. Then why did you take out a rank card now? I have an idea. Tightening his grip on the class card, he looked at the Berserker who was fighting with Hinajiku and Mikoto and said so. Perhaps we can take care of the Berserker in one go. Take care of the Berserker in one go. Rin Inbin and the others looked at each other. At the same time, there was a glimmer of hope in their eyes. Was there really a way to take care of the Berserker in front of them? Well, yeah, and do you need my help? Mio raised the sapphire wand in her hand. I can help you to activate your rank card. Either's still me. Compared to Mayu, Ilya was a little hesitant. It seemed that this should be the residual effect of the death threat that the Berserker brought to her. However, Ilya still raised her ruby wand and chose to step forward bravely. It was only natural that the two magical girls would step forward at this time. After all, if they wanted to use the rank card to activate the noble phantasm corresponding to the rank card, they would need to use a noble phantasm. They would need a magic attire as a medium, and it would need to be a special magic attire. For example, rubies and sapphires could not only provide the owner with unlimited mana, but they could also attack according to the owner's imagination. This property was very similar to the noble phantoms that were born from the belief and fantasy of humans as the framework. It was known as the noble phantoms. As such, the two wands could be used as a special magic attire, and the rank card could be used as a pass to the seat of heroic spirits to materialize the heroic spirits' treasures. As for Wu Yin, he didn't seem to have such a special magic attire, right? Don't worry. However, Wu Yin shook his head and refused, looking at the card in his hand. He smiled. Since magic attire can be used as a medium, magic power, which all magic tricks, magic attire, and even spells rely on, can be used as a medium to unfold a class card, right? Using mana as a medium, Rin Inbin and the others were stunned. Are you all right? Rin said without hesitation. The magic attire can be used as a medium for the materialization of relics, because the relics of the heroic spirits need to be attached to the attire. With the help of its form, it could display its proper posture. Magic power did not have a physical body, nor did it have a physical body. How could it be used as a medium by a tangible noble artifact to possess a body and materialize it? Then, what about materializing magic power? Wu Yin chuckled in a leisurely manner. Materialize magic power and condense it into a physical body. Then, it can be used as a medium, right? Are you crazy? Rin Enbin shouted in disbelief. Materialize your own magic power. Connect to the seat of heroic spirits with a class card, and then summon the noble artifact to materialize it. The amount of magic power required for this process would drain a magician who is 100 times or 1,000 times more powerful than a normal magician in just a second. Do you want to die? Of course, he wouldn't die when his magic power was depleted. However, once his magic power was depleted, he would lose his magic power. It would absorb the user's mental strength and life force and convert them into magic power. The result would be a decrease in lifespan, disability, or even death. Not to mention, before that, Wu Yin had to materialize his magic power. That would require a large amount of magic power to support it. One could imagine how shocked Rin Enbin and the others were when they found out that Wu Yin planned to use his magic power as a medium. Wasn't this a gamble with his life? However, Wu Yin didn't show any signs of fear. Instead, he showed an arrogant expression. I'm sorry. The magic power on his body suddenly expanded and turned into a sound wave. With Wu Yin as the center, it spread in all directions. I don't have much, but I have more magic power and life force than you can imagine. With that, Wu Yan's hand that was holding the class card released a shocking amount of magic power. It condensed into a vortex and wrapped around the entire class card. Class card, Saber, Sword Soldier. Limited activation. In the next moment, the class card turned into a ray of light. Amidst the light, the surging mana continued to emerge from it, spreading in the space like ripples. The card that turned into a ray of light gradually elongated in Wu Yan's hand. It set off waves of light that filled the sky above the mirror realm. Finally, the light dissipated and the class card disappeared from Wu Yan's hand. It was replaced by a sword. A sacred sword that looked like it was forged from gold. The body of the sword was as bright as silver. The blade of the sword was solid gold, and the hilt was dark blue, like a gem. Excalibur, Excalibur. Holding the hilt of Excalibur tightly, Wu Yin took a deep breath and stared at the berserker. In the next moment, the sacred sword was surrounded by golden light and white feathers that emitted a soft light. With a rise and fall, they wrapped around the sacred sword. The sacred sword shone brightly. Chuju, Makoto. Wu Yan's voice clearly entered the ears of the two girls who were fighting the berserker. There was no need for too many words. A simple sentence was enough for Chuju and Makoto to understand. With a leap, they retreated and left the berserker. It was as if a light voice was ringing in everyone's heart. Wu Yan held the sacred sword's hilt with both hands and raised it above his head. Then, the sacred sword turned into a ray of light that spewed out golden energy waves. Excalibur, Excalibur, roar! The true name of Excalibur, Excalibur, and the berserker's roar echoed in the mirror realm at the same time. Then, a golden ray of light shook the atmosphere and broke through the ground. It flashed like a laser beam and landed on the berserker. Boom! The berserker didn't even have time to turn around to look for the enemy he was fighting just a second ago. His vision was filled with a bright light. Then, his huge body was completely swallowed by the light ray. He couldn't even be seen anymore. Roar! Amidst the golden light interruption, the berserker's agonizing howl came from within. It was gradually weakened by the impact of the light beam, and in the end, the berserker was propelled into the sky by the light beam. Bang! The light ray crashed into the arc mirror that covered the sky. It was like a meteor crashing into the ground, causing a deafening explosion. Under the watchful eyes of the people on the rooftop, the arc mirror in the sky was destroyed by the golden light ray. It shattered into pieces and scattered all over the sky. Wu Yin and the others' hearts were in their throats. If Excalibur's strike directly destroyed the mirror realm, all they could do was to run. Fortunately, the situation they imagined didn't happen. The golden light ray on the light ray gradually dimmed. Its power also slowly decreased until it turned into a speck of light and disappeared from the sky. In the sky, the arc mirror was full of holes and tattered. At the corner of the mirror that was riddled with holes, the huge body of the berserker was charred black and emitting smoke. Even his skin was burnt into a mess. He looked like a plane that crashed and fell to the ground on the rooftop. Chapter 1471. Bam! The berserker fell heavily on the rooftop with smoke all over his body, causing a heavy thud and a thick cloud of dust that shrouded his ridiculously huge body. The group of girls first glanced at the thick smoke and dust in front of them before shifting their gazes to the sky. They looked at the arc light mirror that was riddled with holes and shards that were still falling from it. They were secretly shocked in their hearts. One had to admit that the power of Excalibur was unimaginable. If it were to land directly on this building, the entire building would be destroyed in an instant. Even if they were to attack the sky, judging from the current situation, as long as they use the Excalibur again and release the true name of the Excalibur, the sky that was riddled with holes won't be able to hold on. At that time, the entire mirror world would shatter as well, right? It's no wonder Wu Yan was so restrained and didn't use powerful spells to deal with the berserker. This space is too small, it's inconvenient for them to fight. If the opponent was a berserker who only used brute force to attack, it would be fine. If the opponent this time was a saber, caster, or even a rider who rode a Pegasus, this space would have been long gone. Once this space is destroyed, they can only escape from the mirror realm and leave the heroic spirits in the mirror realm to fend for themselves. They won't be able to obtain a rank card anymore. This is something that can't happen no matter what. At least, that's the case for Wu Yan's group. Did it work? Ilya held her ruby staff tightly. Her eyes were filled with nervousness as she looked at the smoke in front of her. No one answered Ilya's question. That's because they have the same doubts in their hearts. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the smoke in front of them. Their eyes and faces were more or less filled with nervousness and anticipation. They're looking forward to the berserker being dealt with just like that. Only Wu Yan's wine-red eyes glowed. His body tensed up and the hand that held the holy sword also tightened. Inside his body, his magic power quietly revolved. Roar! Right at this moment, a deep roar sounded from the smoke in front of them. The girls' pupils shrunk, and a grave and shocked expression appeared on their faces. Roar! Not long after, a second roar sounded. This roar sounded like the howl of a wild beast. It was filled with power and turned into a gust of wind that blew away the smoke in front of them. What entered the girls' eyes was a fiery red light. Just like when the 12 Trials regeneration effect was triggered and the berserker came back to life, the berserker in front of them straightened his body. His eyes flashed with a bloody light, and the muscles on his body were like scalding iron. The scorching red color was all over the berserker. In that fiery red light, the berserker's huge body that was riddled with scars slowly recovered. How is this possible? Rin and Osaka, Livia, Ilya, and Mio all had a look of fear in their eyes. Even Hinajiku and Makoto's faces darkened, their brows furrowed. An unkillable enemy. An unkillable enemy. Furthermore, every time he dies, he will be immune to the same attack, and Sacred Sword's true name liberation will no longer take effect. On top of that, it's on the verge of collapse. The mirror world that could shatter at any moment is firmly restricting everyone's means. How are we supposed to fight this? Roar! A ferocious roar came from the berserker's mouth. It was as if the berserker's roar wanted to shatter the last bit of fighting spirit in the girls' hearts. It caused the atmosphere to tremble and the space to tremble. Under such circumstances, the girls already had thoughts of retreating. Only one person made a move. Suddenly, he faced the sky and roared. Under the berserker's body, covered in fiery red light, a figure flashed out from the void and arrived in front of the berserker. I am waiting. His wine-red eyes flashed with radiance, as if victory is already in his grasp. Wu Yin raised his hand. This is the moment. Following such a declaration, a white flame suddenly ignited on Wu Yan's raised hand and covered his entire hand. At the same time, the berserker seemed to have sensed danger. Its roar came to an abrupt halt, and its huge eyes widened to the maximum. Not giving the berserker time to react, with a cold shout, Wu Yin extended his hand that was burning with white flames, forming a sharp spike. Under the illumination of the white flames, the spike shot out like a laser beam, abruptly flashing. Not far away, the girls only saw a flash of white light in Wu Yan's hand before disappearing. Hoochie, then a tearing sound entered everyone's ears. Roar! The hand blade that was burning with white flames easily pierced through the berserker's steel-like body as if it was cutting through paper. It pierced through the berserker's chest, causing the berserker's ferocious roar to be filled with indescribable pain. Blood flowed out from the hole in his chest, but it was instantly burned by the white flame that covered the hand blade. Blood also flowed out from the corner of the berserker's mouth, causing his eyes to be filled with madness. Roar! The fiery red body is still recovering. The effect of the 12 trials is still in effect. The berserker who hasn't fully recovered reacted as if he was struck by lightning. He swung his heavy fist and fiercely smashed it on Wu Yan's body. Bang! Oomph! Wu Yan let out a muffled groan. As if he was hit by a mountain, his body bounced back heavily and quickly smashed into a wall. Then he fell to the ground with gravel all over his body. Cough, cough, cough. Wu Yan stabilized his body in time and landed on one knee in a sorry state. He held his chest and coughed out a mouthful of blood. Yen, Chuju, and Makoto were shocked. Big brother, Wu Yan and I-san. Ilya and Mayu also cried out in panic. Even Rin, Inbin, and Livia were shocked. The girls quickly ran to Wu Yan's side. Makoto and Chuju blocked in front of Wu Yan with a gloomy expression, guarding against the berserker who might chase after him. Ilya and Mayu supported Wu Yan on both sides. I'm fine. Wu Yan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stopped the two girls from supporting him. He stood up from the ground. The berserker's punch was unimaginably heavy. Even with the true ancestor's strong body, Wu Yan almost lost half his life. But that's it. Everything is worth it. Let's retreat. Rin, Inbin, and Livia shouted in unison. We can't win against a monster like that. No. Without waiting for the other girls to express their opinion, Wu Yan grinned. We've already won. Hearing this, all the girls were stunned. But Hinajiku and Makoto, who were standing in front of everyone and guarding against the berserker, noticed. In front of him, the berserker stood motionless in the same spot. Even the light in his eyes had dimmed. There wasn't a trace of light in his eyes, just like a statue. What's wrong? The group of girls shifted their gazes to the berserker, who seemed a little strange. Their surprise was not concealed at all, and it was completely exposed. Under the watchful eyes of everyone present, the berserker made his move. Its huge arms drooped down, and its head also drooped down. Its entire body leaned forward and slowly fell to the ground. The fiery red luster on his body that represented the activation of the 12 trials regeneration effect disappeared completely. The berserker's body also slowly turned into ashes. Berserker, dead. Chapter 1472. Looking at the berserker's huge body that was slowly falling to the ground and gradually turning into ashes, everyone at the scene couldn't react in time. Amidst the flying ash, the rank card also slowly emerged. However, looking at the class card that they had been dreaming of, none of them snapped out of their daze and went forward to retrieve it. What was going on? Why did my opponent suddenly die? Could it be that he can no longer revive? A series of questions crawled into the hearts of many young girls, causing them to be stunned for a while, unable to react for a long time. Upon seeing this, Wu Yan shrugged. He lifted his leg and went forward to retrieve the class card that was floating in the air. On the surface of the card, there was a picture of a crazy warrior holding a greatsword. Right below the picture, there was a line of words that read Berserker. It flashed with a golden luster, as if it was alive, announcing the end of the battle. Class card, Berserker, a card made with extremely advanced magic theory. It has the magical ability to trigger the power of a certain heroic spirit that corresponds to the card's class card. The method of usage is as follows: limited expansion. With the magic attire as the medium, the class card is the pass to the heroic spirit's seat. Materialize the heroic spirit's relic that corresponds to the class card and can be used for a short period of time. Note, this class card is called Berserker. The corresponding heroic spirit's relic is Kill 100. Parallel limited expansion. With multiple magic attire as the medium and the class card as the pass to the seat of heroes, multiple heroic spirit's relic corresponding to the class card can be materialized. The same relic can be materialized repeatedly. This is the overlapping expansion mode of limited expansion. Note, this job class card is called Berserker. The corresponding heroic spirit's relic is Kill 100. Dream summoning. With the user as the medium and the class card as the pass to the seat of heroic spirits. The user can summon the power of the heroic spirit corresponding to the class card and materialize it on the user's body. The user can turn into a heroic spirit and obtain the power of the heroic spirit corresponding to the class card. Note, this job class card is called Berserker. The corresponding heroic spirit is the greatest and most famous hero in ancient Greek mythology, Hercules. Kill 100 heads, a relic used to kill the immortal Hydra in the past. It was shaped like a bow and arrow and was Hercules' most trusted relic. After killing the Hydra, Hercules could use other weapons to imitate the relic's ability. The specific ability of the skill was to combine all the attacks together and release 9 consecutive attacks at a high speed. Therefore, shooting 100 beasts was a skill that was as powerful as a relic. The relic itself was a gigantic axe sword. When a user held the gigantic axe sword, he would be able to use shooting 100 beasts. Class card, Berserker. Holding the Berserker rank card in his hand tightly, Wu Yin showed a comfortable smile. I'll accept it then. Hearing this, the group of young ladies finally retracted their thoughts and looked at each other in dismay. What the hell is going on? Makoto couldn't wait to ask. Didn't you say that a Berserker has to be killed 12 times before it's eliminated? We could only kill him 2 or 3 times, right? How did the Berserker suddenly die? The rest of the young ladies turned to look at Wu Yin. Their eyes were filled with questions. It's simple. Wu Yin did not hide anything and answered without hesitation. That's because I used up the regeneration effect of the Berserker's relic. Used up? Not only did the young ladies not feel relieved, they were even more confused. There's a limit to the regeneration effect of the Berserker's relic. Seeing that the young ladies were confused, Wu Yin explained. Every time the Berserker's noble phantasm activates the regeneration effect, the Berserker's body will feel like it's on fire. It would be covered in a red glow. I caught the Berserker's relic and killed him when the regeneration effect was triggered. Saying so, he extended his hand that is holding the Berserker rank card. He extended his finger, and with a whoosh, a small white flame ignited on his finger. Seeing this, Rin Enbin, Livia, Ilya, and Makoto looked at each other. Just now, Wu Yin used this white flame to kill the Berserker. Could it be? Could it be because of this white flame? Shuju and Makoto were stunned as well. However, unlike Rin Enbin and the rest, they knew what kind of terrifying ability this white flame had. Thus, they gave it some thought. The two of them immediately understood what was going on. I understand now. Shuju's eyes lit up. No wonder you went head-to-head and even got punched by the Berserker. So this is the reason. This flame has the ability to incinerate time. Makoto crossed her arms in relief. The Berserker's relic is his body. Therefore, Yin thought of a way to kill the Berserker and trigger the regeneration effect of the relic. Then, he buried the flame into the Berserker's body. This way, if that's the case, the flame can burn the Berserker's noble artifact. Wu Yin waved his hand and retracted the white flame on his finger. He then opened his palm. My flames can burn time. If I burn the relic to the point where it appears, the regeneration time stored in the Berserker's relic, and even the duration of the relic itself will be burned up by my flames. Naturally, the Berserker will die as well. Incinerate time. Livia could not hide her shock. Her eyes were filled with shock. Is there a flame in this world that can burn time? What kind of magic is that? No. Rin Inosaka's face froze. No magic can have such an effect. This is already at the level of magic. The so-called magic, to put it bluntly, was actually a method that was unknown to ordinary people. It was something that could be done through human technology, using personal ability and unusual means to do it. And this method not known to ordinary people, and unusual means referred to magic. But burning time? Is human technology able to do such a thing? Things that couldn't be done by human technology could be done by using methods unknown to ordinary people and unusual means. This was magic. That was why mage envoys who could use magic were so rare and powerful. In this world, there were only 5 kinds of things that could be called magic. Kizia, who sent Rin Inosaka and Livia to retrieve the card. Zelrich? Shubi and Ogu is a magic user who can use the second type of magic. It is also the second type of magic. But now, the man in front of him had actually used a magic level technique. Could it be that Wu Yin is one of the 5 magic users? In that case, what was the rank of burning time in the 5 great spells? No one can answer this question except for Rin Inosaka and Livia. At the same time, Rin Inosaka and Livia noticed something strange. Other than holding the card, Wu Yan's other hand is still holding the sacred sword Excalibur. What's going on? Rin Inosaka couldn't help but point at the sacred sword in Wu Yan's hand. Why is the relic still there? There is a time limit to the activation of the card. The relic can only be used for a short period of time. Once the time limit expires, the card will automatically return to its original state. But this sacred sword, I'll explain later. Wu Yan waved his hand. The mirror realm is about to collapse. Let's get out of here first. Hearing this, the group of young ladies could only nod. Chapter 1473. Fuyuki City, a restaurant. This is one of the best restaurants in Fuyuki City. Those who dined in this restaurant were generally people with some status and wealth. Therefore, the cost of eating here was not something that an ordinary family could afford. A simple meal was definitely equivalent to about a month's food expenses for an ordinary family. It was also because of this that this restaurant was open almost 24 hours a day. Even if it was late at night, it would still serve meals. It was a very unique and high-end restaurant. Today, at around 1 o'clock in the morning, this high-end restaurant was booked. This restaurant is comparable in size to a hotel. Until dawn, other than the restaurant staff, there are only 7 people eating here. On a large round table large enough to seat more than 10 people, steaming hot dishes were piled up one after another, filling the entire table. Moreover, the degree of luxury of the dishes was to the extent that it would make one flabbergasted. For example, a thick soup made from whole chickens, a meat dish made from a large amount of precious spices, a vegetable dish drizzled with expensive spices, a salted pie made from steamed freshwater fish, and so on and so forth. The dazzling and luxurious dishes emitted a fragrance that greatly increased one's appetite and filled the air. Just the price of this table of dishes is enough to make one's jaw drop. If a poor person were to stand here, perhaps he wouldn't even dare to eat. Of course, the taste is also top-notch. Even if it can't be compared to a cheating vampire ancestor, it's still not something a normal restaurant can compare to. Wu Yin, Hinajiku, Mikoto, Rin Inosaka, Ruvia, Ilya, and Miyu gathered around the dining table. There are also 2 UFOs with ribbon-like ribbons on them. Their chatter echoed throughout the dining hall. Cheers! Along with the voices, ding, ding, dang, dang, sounds of glasses clinking echoed. At first glance, it seems like a celebration party is being held. Actually, this was indeed a celebratory feast. To celebrate the retrieval of all 7 cards, Wu Yin booked the entire cafeteria to reward Hinajiku and Mikoto, who have been fighting nonstop for the past few days. Rin Inbin's group is also here. The other two class cards are also with them, so he invited them together. However, the person himself seemed to be a little unhappy. Really, Rin Inbin raised a glass full of drinks. She couldn't help but yell. Why do we have to participate in the enemy's celebration party? Indeed, Livia rubbed her aching head. She then looked at her surroundings. However, as far as the taste of the restaurant is concerned, this is quite to my taste. If I have time in the future, I will come here to eat again. I'm not against it. Ilya's expression was a bit stiff. But this is the first time I'm wandering around outside this late at night. If my family finds out, I'll be screwed. Hearing this, Hinajiku and Mikoto, who were closest to Ilya, stopped what they were doing and looked at each other in dismay. Speaking of which, there's still two 10-year-old children here. Is it okay for them to stay out all night like this? Well, Wu Yin scratched his face. Since the guardian is here, it shouldn't be a problem, right? Mio's guardian is here. Ilya raised her hand weakly. But I did not, Ilya. You can't be like this. Ruby, who was flying beside Ilya, said seriously. The night is a very charming existence for humans. Only by understanding the joy of the night can you become an adult, huh? Ilya laughed dryly. I feel like your words are very ambiguous. There's still class tomorrow. Mio, who was silent, finally spoke. That's why I don't agree with this kind of activity that wastes rest time. Mayo-sama, Sapphire flew over. Do I need to use magic to dispel fatigue? How about I help you? Makoto raised one of her fingers. Blue and white electric sparks jumped on it. I've tried staying up all night in Tokawadai before, but if you use electricity, you'll feel refreshed the next day. Mikoto suggested as if she had good intentions. How about it? Do you want to use electricity? Ilya and Mio both froze. Looking at Mikoto, who had blue and white electric sparks on her finger, Ilya's little head shook like a rattle drum. What? Mikoto pouted in dissatisfaction. It's really effective? No, I don't think that's the problem. Shuju blushed with shame. Before seeing if it's effective, it's best to consider if it's dangerous or not. Haha. Wu Yin couldn't help but laugh out loud. Makoto glared at him. But there's no point in saying that now. Since they're already here, Ilya and Mio could only put on a gloomy expression and start tasting the dishes on the table. Soon, they tasted the delicious dishes, and their little faces showed a joyful expression. Judging from his point of view, these two girls were definitely children. Seeing how cute the two little girls were, Hinajiku and Mikoto didn't know if it was because their maternal instincts were triggered or if it was because they saw cute toys. They all went over to them. Two big girls and two small girls laughed and played together. You guys, Rin Inbin sighed and muttered with a frown. You guys have such a good relationship. When it's time to fight for each other's class cards, how are you going to do it? Speaking of class cards, Livia frowned and looked at Wu Yin. She asked with a face full of doubt. How are you able to keep the limited release Noble Phantasm in its materialization state? Upon hearing that, Rin Inbin shifted his gaze to Wu Yin. Logically speaking, the class card that was materialized into a Noble Phantasm could only be used for a very short period of time. That period of time might not even last a minute. This was something that Rin Inbin and Livia, who had used their class cards on more than one occasion, were well aware of. However, in tonight's battle, the sacred sword that Wu Yin materialized maintained its Noble Phantasm form. Let's not talk about how much mana Wu Yin had to expend to maintain the Noble Phantasm. Just this alone is enough to make one wonder how much mana Wu Yin had to expend to maintain the Noble Phantasm. Could it be that the limited release could be maintained indefinitely? Could it be that they couldn't maintain the limited release because they used the wrong method? Looking at Rin Inbin and Livia's eyes, Wu Yin could almost guess what they were thinking. He pouted. Don't think too much. The reason why I can maintain the limited release is because of a special ability of mine. Special ability? The two girls were confused. Wu Yin shook his head and explained. As you guys have seen, I have my own Noble Phantasm. However, those were not noble phantasms in the beginning. They were just normal weapons. Wu Yin opened the back of his hands. Two bright red dots formed a sword mark on the back of his hands. I can turn any weapon into my noble phantasm. As Rin Enbin and Livia were shocked, Wu Yin spoke. No matter what weapon it is, even if it's a heroic spirit's noble phantasm, as long as I touch it, it will become my noble phantasm and fall under my control. Noble phantasms that are materialized by rank cards are also weapons. Wu Yin shook his head regretfully after he cut off the ability of the knight's Undying Knight and made the two dots disappear. However, since it's just a materialized phantasm, I can't directly turn it into my noble phantasm. However, before I cut off the supply of mana to the noble phantasm, the noble phantasm will be affected by my ability. It will stay in my hands until I run out of mana. Perhaps I will cut off the supply of mana myself. Rin Inosaka and Livia opened their mouths, then closed them again. After hearing this explanation, they were even more confused. For example, why does Wu Yin have such an ability? For example, why does Wu Yin have such powerful mana? For example, is the white flame that can burn time a spell? All these questions have been weighing down on the two Magic Association's Chronometer Tower's hearts. However, they didn't ask any questions. After all, they have collected all 7 rank cards. Next, in order to collect all 7 rank cards, they will become real enemies. Chapter 1474. Everyone had their own thoughts, but at least on the surface, the meal ended satisfactorily. Unknowingly or unknowingly, this meal was eaten by everyone until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. In the cold wind, Wu Yin, Chuju, Mikoto, Rin Enbin, Livia, Ilya, and Mio parted ways at the entrance of the restaurant. After greeting each other, they returned home. Originally, Wu Yin was the only man present. Now that it was 2 or 3 a.m., it would be ungentlemanly of him if he didn't send the girls home first. But who would be worried that the 4 of them would be ambushed in the middle of the night? 2 of them were magicians from famous magic schools, and they were also the top students of the Magic Association's Chronometer Tower. The other 2 were magical girls. When the 4 of them worked together, ordinary heroic spirits might not be a match for them. Are you worried about their safety? Then, there should be at least a few capable attackers. Furthermore, after the meal ended, Wu Yin, Chuju, and Mikoto felt that Rin Enbin and Livia's attitude towards them changed. Even if Wu Yin suggested to send them home, they would probably reject him. There's nothing they can do about it. Unlike Wu Yin's group, Rin Enbin and Livia felt a lot of pressure. There's no other reason other than the fact that they have to face an opponent even scarier than a heroic spirit. That's all. When they thought of that, Rin Enbin and Livia watched as Wu Yan's group walked away while chatting and laughing. Their faces slowly sank. Mio, who was accompanying Livia, seemed to have noticed something as well. She lowered her head. She remained silent. Huh. Only Ilya yawned as if she wasn't nervous at all. She rubbed her eyes like a sleepy child. Let's go back and sleep. We still have classes tomorrow. After saying that, Ilya took the ruby and turned around, intending to walk in the direction of her home. Rin Enbin suddenly spoke. Maybe you don't want to hear this, but I have to make it clear. Rin Enbin's green eyes stared straight ahead as he spat out those words. Don't get closer to those people. Mayu clenched his fists tightly when he heard this. Ilya's footsteps also came to a halt, and her pupils shrank. She was no longer sleepy. She slowly turned around and looked at Rin Enbin's back. She forced a smile as if she was running away from something. This? What do you mean? I don't want to make it clear. Rin Enbin was silent for a while before speaking with an expressionless face. You know, at this moment, the atmosphere between Rin Inosaka, Livia, Mio, and Ilya froze. Just like what Rin Enbin said, they knew what he meant. Why would Rin Inosaka say something like that? Because next, they would have to face the problem that they had always avoided talking about. Fighting for the rank card. Moreover, it was those 3 people who had displayed strength that far exceeded theirs more than once, and had even saved them more than once. Although they had been avoiding the topic, Rin Inbin, Luvia, Ilya, and Mio knew that as long as both sides wanted the Rancor, then that day would eventually come. Or rather, it was unbelievable that they had dragged it out until now. Wu Yin, Chuju, and Mikoto, no matter who stood out, they had the strength to defeat Rin Inbin and the other three. So, as long as they wanted to, then the rank card in the hands of Rin Inbin and the others wouldn't be able to keep it. Let's not talk about anything else, the caster magician card. If Wu Yin didn't have an agreement with Rin Inbin and Mio didn't get the Lancer card from him, they wouldn't have gotten the card in the end. The Archer card was in Wu Yan's hands before he returned it to Ilya in exchange for information. The other 5 cards were in Wu Yan's hands, no matter how they looked at it. Rin Inbin and the others had no way of winning. Unless they don't care about involving normal people and risk being punished by the Magic Association and ask for help from the Magic Association, otherwise, getting the other 5 class cards from Wu Yan's hands is going to be very difficult. Of course, this wasn't the real reason why Rin Inbin told Ilya and Mio to stay away from Wu Yan in the future. The real reason why Rin Inbin said this was because they were going to become enemies who would fight for the cards. If they were to close the distance at this time, not to mention whether there would be people playing tricks on them, if they really became entangled, what should they do when it was time to make a move? Go easy on them? In that case, in the end, the gray card in his hand would only be taken away. Actually, Rin Inosaka also knew that he was just lying to himself. Regardless of whether or not Elia and Mayu had feelings for each other, Elia herself already had some hazy feelings for them, toward the man who had intimate contact with her. If even Rin and Osaka is like this, Iria and Mio, who were once enlightened, helped, cared for, and saved by Wu Yan, are in even more of a predicament. Their petite faces showed signs of bitterness. Do we have to fight? Ilya couldn't help but ask for help. Is there no other way to solve this? Don't be naive, Ilya. Ilya's official. The one who spoke was Luvia, who had a serious expression on her face. Our goal is the rank card. As long as no one gives up, this is an irreconcilable conflict. Then, Ilya's little hands were holding her clothes tightly. Her face was full of hesitation. Then can't we just give up on the rank card? Big Brother and the others aren't bad people, right? There's no need to worry about them doing bad things with the cards, right? The 3 questions in a row caused Luvia to fall into silence. She was unable to say anything. Taking back the rank card is the mission given to us by the Magic Association. This time, it was Rin Inbin's turn to answer. No matter what we want, at least the Magic Association won't allow us to give the rank card to others. Then, Rin-san, do you think we should fight with Big Brother and the others? Ilya started to get excited. For those cards, Rin-san, can you fight with your companions? They're not our companions. Rin Indo turned his head abruptly, and his gaze met Ilya's eyes, which were also filled with waves that were difficult to calm down. Ilya, the world of magic isn't as beautiful as you think. It's a bloody world filled with madness, delusion, and obsession. Even if you have a sense of companionship with them, can you be sure that they have the same struggle as you? Ilya's body trembled. Her excitement disappeared as if she was splashed with cold water. Yeah, I don't want to fight with Big Brother and the others. What about Big Brother and the others? Do they have the same thought? Do they have the same struggle as me? Will they give up on the rank card for us? Do they not want to fight with us because of the rank card? Could it be that all the smiles from before were fake? Wu Yan, Sam once told me. While Ilya's heart was filled with confusion, Mio raised her head. A pair of determined eyes appeared in everyone's sight. I'm no longer alone. I have someone to rely on. If I don't mind him as an enemy, he will also become my support. From that person, I can feel a sense of security. It's the same as my older brother's sense of security. Mayu changed from her usual silent image and expressed her feelings from the bottom of her heart. She fearlessly met Rin Inbin and Luvia's gaze. That's why I choose to believe in Wu Yan-san. Mio. Hearing Mio's words, Ilya couldn't help but recall the scene of her eating sundaes with Wu Yan. The scene of them having fun together, the scene of him saving her from the berserker, and the scene of him comforting her when her heart was filled with fear. I also believe that Big Brother isn't that kind of person. Ilya's heart calmed down. Her eyes and face were no longer filled with confusion. He must be sincere in his dealings with us. You all. Livia had a complicated expression. Sigh. Rin Inbin sighed. However, his heavy expression unknowingly relaxed. He smiled bitterly. What a troublesome situation. Chapter 1475. The next day, it was a beautiful morning. Not only was the weather fine, the sun was bright, the sky was clear, and the autumn air was refreshing. No matter how one looked at the weather, the temperature up, left, down, and right, it was a good day for doing anything. With such beautiful weather, Hinajiku and Mikoto also took out all the blankets from their house and washed them clean. Humming and singing, they took the blankets out to the balcony and sprinkled them. Their mood couldn't be better. They could even jump around. Wu Yan also woke up early. It was rare for him to have such a good time. He sat on the sofa in the living room, drinking tea while enjoying his daily life with the two girls. From time to time, he would flirt with Chuju, quarrel with Mikoto, and play with the two arrogant girls. Because of this, Hinajiku and Mikoto's mood was always at a high level. Their faces were filled with unconcealable happiness, making the two beautiful girls even prettier today, dazzling and dazzling. However, their good mood was completely ruined by the sound of the doorbell. Standing in front of the gate, Chuju and Mikoto were also standing behind him, one on the left and one on the right. Including Wu Yan, the smiles on their faces disappeared. What was left behind was a look of astonishment. His eyes were filled with astonishment as he looked at the person standing in front of the gate. She was wearing a red woolen sweater, a black pleated skirt, knee-high socks, and a pair of ponytails. It was a beautiful girl with a smile on her face. For a long time, the three couldn't react. When they finally came to their senses, Hinajiku and Mikoto's expression darkened. Wu Yan's expression slowly turned into one of confusion as he pointed at his own nose and laughed dryly. What did you just say? Can I trouble you to repeat that again? Date. The girl standing outside the gate, Rin in Osaka. Without the slightest hesitation, a smile appeared on his face. How about it? Are you going? Wu Yan's mouth twitched. He fell into silence again. Was she playing it now? Wasn't there something wrong with her last night? She didn't seem to fit in with us? He didn't even have a chance to ask how she knew where he lived, and she said something like that. What is she trying to do? Wu Yan didn't think that Rin in Osaka was just messing with him. After all, other than the few times he had sex with Rin in Osaka, other than retrieving the cards, the only other time they had met was when they drank black tea at the coffee shop and had a discussion at Livia's house. After that, they didn't have any other interactions. She came to him and said she wanted to go on a date in front of Chuju and Mikoto. She said there was no ghost. Who would believe her? Of course, this was Wu Yan's idea. Rin in Osaka had a mysterious smile on her face. There was a hint of provocation in her eyes. No one knew what she was thinking. As for Hinajiku and Mikoto, Wu Yan, who is standing in front of them, doesn't know what kind of expression they have on their faces. However, he can feel chills running down his spine, causing him to break out in cold sweat. Needless to say, these two girls, they definitely thought that Wu Yan went behind their back to flirt with other girls. This is such an injustice, but Rin in Osaka didn't just want to go on a date with him. That's for sure. Okay. After some hesitation, Wu Yan nodded. Wait for me. Wu Yan ignored Rin in Osaka's helpless shrug and turned around. He looked at Chuju and Mikoto, who were staring at him coldly. He scratched his face and laughed. I'm going out for a bit. A date. Chuju said with a fake smile. That a good thing, yeah. Mikoto closed her eyes. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and seemed to be very calm. However, the blue and white electric arcs jumping on her forehead betrayed her mood. It's rare for the weather to be so nice today. Well, Wu Yan put his hands together and made an apologetic gesture. You know, I didn't mean it that way. I'll bring you a gift. Please don't be mad. Only then did Hinajiku and Makoto's expressions lighten up. Chuju and Makoto knew that Rin Inosaka wouldn't go on a date with Wu Yin for no reason. As girls, they were proud, but they could see that Rin Inosaka's nonchalant attitude wasn't something a girl who was about to go on a date should have. If that's the case, Rin Inosaka's date with Wu Yin must have an ulterior motive, coupled with Wu Yan's apologetic look. Even if the two girls had hearts of stone, they would have melted. They could only turn their heads away and reply in a muffled tone. "Come back soon, got it." Wu Yin turned around and grabbed Rin Inosaka's hand. They ran out of the house before Rin could react. Chuju and Makoto looked at Wu Yin and Rin Inosaka's back as they walked away. They could see the jealousy and helplessness in each other's eyes. They're going to fall into that guy's hand for the rest of their lives. Wu Yin, Chuju, and Makoto's house was a bit far from Fuyuki City. They were surrounded by residential areas, and the streets were only passable. It was similar to Iria, Mio, and Livia's house. Since it's a date, Wu Yin couldn't bring Rin Inosaka to wander around the residential area. The two didn't speak and walked side by side towards the city. Walking on the street, Rin Inbin couldn't help but stretch like a cat. He looked up at the sky and praised. "The weather's great. Looks like I picked the right day." A gentle breeze blew by, and Rin Inosaka's black ponytails fluttered. Coupled with her good looks, Wu Yan's heart skipped a beat. "That's true. This kind of weather is perfect for a date. I guess you picked the right day." Wu Yan isn't some innocent guy. He quickly regained his senses, and he looked at Rin Tadaro with a half-smile. "But this outfit isn't right. It doesn't look like you're going on a date." "This is what I'm going to wear for a date," Rin Inosaka retorted. "Are you doubting my taste in clothes? Red on top and black on the bottom. I don't see any taste in it." Wu Yan curled his lips and revealed a smile that Rin Inosaka thought was very seductive. "Good. You're a little revealing. At least it's not that bad." Wu Yan glanced at Rin's thighs as he said that. He told Rin where this little bit is exposed. "Oh." His eyes twitched, and he forced a smile on his face. "Ugh." Rin Tozaka's face twitched. "Then, do you want to touch it again?" Rin Inosaka lifted her thighs, and it caught Wu Yan's attention. Rin Inosaka's lower body was very seductive. Her skirt was short, and it didn't provide any protection. Every time she moved her legs, Rin Inosaka's skirt could be vaguely seen. The curves from her thighs to her buttocks were also fully exposed. It was sexy and beautiful. Under these circumstances, when Rin Inosaka lifted her legs, her vaguely visible thighs became even more obvious. It was very tempting. Unfortunately, Wu Yan didn't think Rin Inosaka was trying to seduce him. Instead, it looked like she was preparing to kick him. No, if Wu Yan really touched her thighs, Rin Inosaka would definitely kick him. Miss Rin sure is open-minded. Wu Yan shrugged in a teasing manner. "You're going to touch thighs on a date. This is unprecedented. I'm sorry. I'm just that open-minded." Rin Inosaka's forehead was imprinted with the word "well." His smile turned dangerous. "Then, can you tell me what an open-minded date is like?" Wu Yan turned around and smiled meaningfully. He reached out and grabbed Rin Inosaka's hand. "Whoa." Rin Inosaka was shocked and glared at Wu Yan. What are you doing? Didn't you want to know what an open-minded date is?" Wu Yan blinked. He raised his hand that was holding Rin's. "This is what you call an open-minded date." Rin Inosaka's heartbeat sped up when she saw her hand holding Wu Yan's. Chapter 1476. The shops were lined up next to each other on both sides of the street. Today was not a holiday. Primary school students, junior high school students, and high school students all had to go to class. The most prosperous commercial street in Fuyuki City was not crowded with people early in the morning. Today, the weather was so good that there were more people going out. Even if there were no students, the commercial street in the city center was very lively. Moreover, the closer one was to the center of the shopping street, the more people there were. It was not to the point of shoulder to shoulder, but there were some places where one had to squeeze through. In such a lively commercial street, Wu Yin and Rin in Osaka were like an ordinary couple, holding hands and playing crazily. Wu Yin didn't know if Rin in Osaka didn't go to school or skip class to come to his house. He didn't ask. He didn't even ask if Rin in Osaka had any other purpose. He just took Rin in Osaka to walk around, as if he was really enjoying a date. Rin in Osaka seems to have reached an agreement with Wu Yin. She didn't say anything that would spoil the mood. She chatted with Wu Yin about their daily lives. Whenever she saw a shop that caught her eye, she would go inside. She's just like a normal girl, so normal that it's ridiculous. In such a situation, perhaps no one would have thought that the beautiful girl with 2 ponytails who was happily shopping was a magician. Perhaps the two of them chose to forget something that didn't need to appear at this moment. They turned into the most ordinary people, patronizing the shops and walking on the streets like the pedestrians around them. As time went by, Wu Yin, who was responsible for carrying things, had a variety of bags on his body. Even Rin in Osaka had a few bags in his hands. One could only imagine how many shops the two of them had visited. It was worth mentioning. Throughout the whole process, although the two of them didn't speak sweet words like ordinary couples, and even stuck together intimately, their hands were always tightly held. Except for when Rin to Saka went to buy clothes to try on, they didn't let go for a moment. So this time they held hands. The two of them held hands for the whole morning until now. Truth be told, although the two of them did not say anything, they were both very surprised by this situation. Of course, the surprise was different. Wu Yin was surprised that Rin in Osaka didn't dislike holding hands with him. Coming out of the house, from the moment they held hands, Wu Yin thought that Rin in Osaka would shake off his hand soon, or even directly shake off his hand. But not only did Rin in Osaka not do that, she kept holding hands with him. Even after trying on clothes, she would immediately hold hands with him. And Rin in Osaka was surprised by her behavior. She was surprised that she kept holding hands with Wu Yin. She only knew. Every time she let go, she would subconsciously feel a little disappointed, and then she couldn't help but reach out and hold hands with Wu Yin again. This made Rin in Osaka very confused, and he couldn't understand it. After all, she only met Wu Yin a few days ago, and their positions were completely opposite. It was no wonder that Rin in Osaka was confused and surprised that she didn't reject Wu Yan's intimate contact. Maybe Wu Yan's position in Rin's heart is different from other people's due to the fact that she had sex with him a couple of times. That's not for sure just like that. The whole morning had passed by. Rin in Osaka sat on a stone bench in the corner of a park with a fountain. She threw the bags in her hands to the side and said with a satisfied expression, "It's so comfortable. Of course it's comfortable." She also threw the bags in her hands on the bench. Wu Yin passed one of the 2 drinks to Rin in Osaka with an expressionless face. "You're using my money. Of course it's comfortable. It's comfortable using other people's money." Rin in Osaka wasn't embarrassed at all. She calmly drank her drink and glanced at Wu Yin. "Anyway, you were so straightforward when you paid the bill, and you didn't seem to feel any heartache when you spent the money. I'm sure you don't care about these things, right? You're quite observant." Wu Yin rolled his eyes. "To me, money is just a number. If it weren't for the fact that I don't want to waste money, I would have bought the entire Fuyuki city." "Buy Fuyuki City?" Rin in Osaka almost choked on her drink. She looked at Wu Yin in shock. "You're that rich?" "Yeah, unfortunately," Wu Yin shrugged. "I'm the nouveau riche you hate the most. Although I don't have any intention of exploding." "Damn it." Rin in Osaka clenched her teeth in frustration. "If I knew, I would have bought all the gems in the gem store. You're quite generous when you're spending other people's money." Wu Yin sighed and looked at the fountain in front of them. "Well, now that we've gone shopping, arranged a meeting, bought some things, and spent most of our money, shouldn't you tell me why you're looking for me?" Rin in Osaka quietly looked at the fountain in front of him. She didn't say a word. Her green eyes were emotionless. After a long time, he opened his mouth and said these words. "Is there a reason why you're taking back your rank cards?" "Reason?" William was slightly surprised. "I am here to retrieve the cards because of an important figure in the Magic Association's chronometer tower. Before Wu Yin could reply, Rin Tozaka explained his reason for coming here. He said that as long as Livia and I can bring back the 7 rank cards, he will accept us as his disciples. Even though it's not a dream to have that person as my master, it will be a great help to me. This is a rare opportunity. Rin in Osaka said seriously. That's why I don't need the rank cards. I won't give it up no matter what, but if I can get it, I'll give it a shot. Wu Yin didn't say anything. He continued to look at the fountain in front of him. Rin in Osaka didn't say anything either. She just sat there without saying a word. Actually, I'm in the same boat as you, Wu Yin helplessly said. To you, the job rank card is an opportunity for you to find a good teacher and embark on a good future. As for me, I don't have much need for the job rank card. It is only one of the factors that can give me a chance. A chance. Rin in Osaka turned around and stared at Wu Yin. Yes, a chance. Wu Yin leaned back in his chair and looked at the sky. He reached out his hand towards the sky as if he was trying to grab something. He mumbled, a chance to reach the top. A chance to reach the top. Rin in Osaka lowered his head and smiled bitterly. It seems like we have the same reason for wanting the rank cards. That's why I'm the same as you. I won't give up no matter what. Wu Yin placed his hand behind his head. But if I can get it, I'll give it a shot. That's true. Rin in Osaka closed his eyes. Then, what if we don't give up the rank cards? What will you do? Of course I'll take it. What if we don't give it up? Then I'll snatch it before you guys die. Won't you kill us to get the rank cards? This time, it was Rin in Osaka's turn to frown. Are you going to say that you can't do it? My instincts tell me that you're not that naive. Then what kind of person do you think I am? Unscrupulous in order to achieve my goal? Wu Yin pursed his lips. Perhaps if it was a group of people that I hate, I would have killed them directly. Unfortunately, all of you get along very well with me, so I really couldn't do it. Rin in Osaka stared at Wu Yin in shock. After a while, he burst out laughing. Don't think that we'll give up on the rank cards just because you said that. Of course. Wu Yin smiled. I said I'll take it. Then I'll be waiting for you. Rin in Osaka's face brightened up. He picked up all the bags on the chair and stood up. Well then, I've achieved my goal. It's time to go. Rin in Osaka waved his hand. All right, the 2 kids aren't in a good mood. Rin in Osaka walked out of the park, leaving Wu Yin alone. He shook his head and laughed. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.